Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor Brains V Brawn II. I'm your host, Shannon Guss, here to talk about Week 8 with some feedback, with someone that I always love to talk Survivor with. We had 2 episodes this week. One seemed like a bit of a setup episode, but then, in hindsight, super interesting. And then a 2-1-1-1. I'm sure we're all on a high from that still. It's been days, but I know I am. And I'm so excited to talk to my guest who always thinks about the game in such a fun, out-of-the-box way. It is a great Simon Mee. Simon, thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here to be chatting about this fantastic season.
Yeah, well, Brains v Brawn too. As an original Brawn, we did have a lot of questions like dancing on the grave kind of the Brawns. Now that we know a Brawn cannot win, that it'll be 0 for 2 on Australian Brain v Brawn. We did have Tony won the original Brain v Brawn v Beauty, but Brawns since then, Simon, what happened?
Oh,
It's
I
gone
know, and
terribly.
it was an absolute whitewash. Like they just, got absolutely rinsed, didn't they? So, look, it hurts to see. Yeah, my fantasy team is all done and dusted because I doubled down on Brawns naturally, but look, overall, I think the theme has delivered. Like it's been fun. It's been good to get around. And yeah, just Brain's just too good again.
Yeah. Like in confessionals, in the chizzy, obviously in winning the game, it's been like all Brains all the time. Is this something you actually care about? Because JLP said in the first episode, he was like, in the war, like the ongoing war of Brains v Brawn. And I was like, what are we doing here? What like divergent type issue is happening? But as a Brawn, is that something that you like? Do you actually go in with any loyalty to the Brawns or no?
I think there's a bit of sentiment there for me to I don't know, to get behind the Brawn, like knowing that like that's where my journey started, kind of thing. But like, it's kind of like I don't like comparing it to my season because like I'm so biased, like, and so I just try to separate them because once you're in it itself, you just it's so different from say the product that we watch together. So yeah, I kind of keep them separate. So I don't know, maybe you might have a better view on it from the outside looking back, and an unbiased opinion from both of them. But yeah, look, I think like it has just been fun, and it's a good way to convey a story and to lean into people's like archetypes and who they are, and what their motivations are, and how that kind of comes to life. I think probably the most interesting part that we've seen Kaylin, like an OG Brain, be the most physical challenge enthusiast that we have ever seen,
Yeah.
and taking out 6 necklaces so far. So like that's interesting. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just too close to the original be Brains vs Brawn for me to really comment like and compare them too much because yeah, I see my first season with rose-colored glasses, I guess.
Yeah, well, that just shows. I mean, it is a good joke about Australian Survivor that a brain has won the has beaten the record for most like global challenge wins, that like individual immunity wins.
Yeah, yeah,
Or really, maybe it just shows that the tribe designations are random. We really thought that was true in this season. Even your 2 tribe designations, the brawn and a villain, like I guess.
yeah, yep. Like he there's there's an overarching narrative, and there's always so much more that goes on and stuff, and there's always like alliances that yeah, and people, relationships that you see between people, or when you don't even hear from someone in like say pre-tribal, like what's actually going on, and you're only going to hear from the people at times that will help follow that story arc, I guess. So yeah, it's just been a lot of fun, I guess, like seeing it come together, and it has been good to get behind the Brawn, and cheer for them and watch them fail miserably. But hey, we
Yeah.
tried. So maybe in BVB 3, a Brawn will come out on top.
Yeah, tried your best and failed miserably. It wasn't you. I mean, like the first one kind of was. You were on that tribe. And again, like one Brawn has made like the final fours of the 8 people that have made the final fours of these
Wow, yeah,
seasons.
no,
So
that's a stat. That's good.
yeah,
That's
it's really
quite
bad. I think the
impressive.
next time should be Brains v Brains. And the Brains can just I think they've won that right. That's how we'll do
We
it next
just
time.
do we drop Brawn and just bring in Beauty?
Well, the Brawns often are. I mean, present company included, Simon, of course. But I mean, the joke is always that Australian Survivor, like everyone's beautiful, but I think oops all brains. Like this final four. That's really what we've earned here is I think just a fully brainy season where people will win 8 challenges on the brains tribe anyway, because that's how it
Yeah.
is. But Simon, I know that you've like caught up on the season because you were in Japan. So thank you for doing that. How are you
Yeah.
enjoying the season? Does it compare to Japan in any way? Because Japan is the best. So
Look, yeah, trip was awesome. Family holiday was amazing. Had a chance to go over there with my parents and my wife and my daughter. And look, mum doesn't ski. Dad retired last year, so he wanted to do one last hurrah on the slopes. So I looked after. So my mum, who didn't ski, babysat my daughter while I babysat dad on the slopes, and we had a great time skiing as a family. And so I took my laptop over to have every intention to watch whilst I was there, but just the chaos of being away, being on holidays, and being able to switch off, I guess. I fell drastically behind, but this week I knew that I was going to be on, and I know I committed to this with you, weeks before I even left. So I think I binge watched 8 episodes to catch up this week, and I tried to avoid as many spoilers as I could on social media, but it's very hard. But look, overall, I have thoroughly enjoyed this season. I have enjoyed the narrative. I've enjoyed the characters. It's just been a lot of fun seeing it all come together. I know that there's been challenges with the, I guess, some of the diversity of the cast. Like they probably wanted a little bit more from the OG Brawn, but it's, I think how it has come through, and the characters like the Jungle Rat and AJ and Miles, oh god, who's my teacher, Mad Max. Just we've seen some really great characters throughout the season, and it's been one of my favorites over the last few years, outside of the ones that or discounting the ones that I was in. It's probably my favorite one since I played, which is, I think it's really cool.
I feel like that's a big call, considering the two since you last played are Titans v Rebels and this, and I wouldn't want to go up against Titans v Rebels in anything.
Yeah, look, I think that I loved Titans v Rebels, with with Ferris and Kirby and Mark and Valeria. They were all huge fun characters. But I don't know, there's just something about this one that I've felt like a little bit more connected to and drawn into in some way. And I don't know, maybe it's just some of the subtleties of sharing some of the beaches or whatever with with Villains Beach and stuff. But it's, I don't know, it's drawn me in a, and maybe it's the theme, Brains V Brawn, to suck me back in there to be a little bit more invested. But yeah, I've loved the development of the characters and what we've seen in the storylines and the twists. And there's a little bit of a comparison. I remember back when we're seeing, I say after All Stars, and there was this the new generation of Australian Survivor kind of started from there, and a lot more idols and twists started getting included and brought forward. And playing at the time, I was like, oh, there's too many idols, even though I had 2 of them at the time and went home with them. But then seeing it now, I'm like,
it's too many idols, but you're holding the 2 of them. You're this, even for me, this is too much, and you're just draped in dozens of idols. Yeah.
But when there was, say, 4 in play at a time, I think I think it adds new or breathes new life into the game, knowing that there's so much more out there, and you can never truly be in control. And when you're trying to predict the game or guess what's happening, there's always something else going on. So it's the evolution of it, and what this new era of Australian Survivor is, I've thoroughly enjoyed watching as a spectator.
Yeah, well, they found that we did find an alliance that found a way to cover that. An alliance that covered all the challenges. Miles just finds every idol, and AJ just controls it strategically. And they're like, now we can have full control because we have all the trinkets around our neck or in our back pocket. So yeah, I mean, look, I know that some people are down on the season. I feel like your mileage may vary on the 2-1-1-1, because either you're ooh, fun, 2-1-1-1, or you're oh, but then Zara didn't make the move that you would think that she would make, and we'll definitely talk about that because there's been debate around the move. But I still think it was still a fun opportunity to have, and it's fun to talk about Zara's decision because it's such a powerful decision in this way. So I really enjoyed it. I know that again, your mileage may vary as well very, very much, as we said every week on the Miles and AJ of it all. If you enjoy Miles and AJ, you're going to enjoy it more. You are wearing a Jungle Rat t-shirt, so I assume you are a fan. So that, did you pay for that, by the way?
No, Miles.
What do I have to do to get a t-shirt? Yeah, what are we doing? Why does Simon have a shirt? I want a shirt. I'll wear it on the podcast.
There you go. You need to send one to Shannon, please.
Yes.
I thoroughly enjoy Miles and AJ. AJ is like, he's crazy, but he's being able to like manipulate his way so well through the game. So I've really loved that. I think there's similarities between, say, AJ and Ferris, where Ferris was able to articulate really well how he was able to like deconstruct his thoughts about what was going on and then identify where the missing information was, and then locate those votes and manipulate it from there. So I really like that. But then AJ comes at it in a really unique way where he's just in total control with so many different alliances, and the way that he can hold the room and work with so many people after burning them multiple times, and I guess building them up and then doing stuff behind their back, and everyone's frustrated with him, but he's allowed to do it and he has the bandwidth to do it. So watching him operate like that is really cool. I think it's to me, it feels a little bit like, see, George with better stakeholder management. Maybe if I'm making a direct comparison there as well, but it's really cool to see. And then Miles, I just adore, and I absolutely love him as a character. And then when I got to meet him a couple of weeks ago, that was he was just Miles, just the jungle rat. It was so much fun. But he gave me the shirt, and I think I'm so drawn to Miles because, as a fellow power bottom dweller, I absolutely get behind anyone who is just spending so much time at the bottom of a tribe and can make it work. Yeah, and can climb their way back. So after experiencing that myself, I'm just I was really drawn to Paulie's story as well. As he kind of struggled through his time on the bottom, but to watch Miles not just survive but thrive from the bottom, and just it was only ever at the top or at the bottom. There was no in between for him, and that fluctuated as well, week to week. So I think that it's just been so intriguing, and I get behind that. I get behind Miles. It's just such a cool storyline, right? He's a cool character.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I assume there's some sort of club that you welcome people into as some sort of president, right? That Miles is now a part of. And I would love to talk about that because I feel like Miles is now technically at the bottom again. And I'd love to talk about where this final four goes. I think that he should be okay. But that's definitely what the next time on is showing, that he has been left out of the vote. He voted for AJ. AJ's still in the game in a very entertaining sequence where I think AJ thinks he's gone. He's like, oh, I see. It's he's being blindsided. So surely he thinks he's out of the game. And he stays, and Miles has voted for him, which is a really fun way for that breakup to happen because we get to see it play out. See, I enjoy that. Other people are like, no, because the move didn't happen. I'm like, but we retain these characters and that drama while still getting a 2-1-on-1. For me, that was kind of best case scenario, personally.
Yeah, that was excellent. And it was just how it all came together. And then for Zara, who has been existing in this game for so long with her hands tied, she has had very little go her, everything has gone her way, but not the way that she's wanted it to, if that makes sense. She's we're moving forward with her alliance, but she's not voting out the people she wants to, and her hands are tied because AJ is just able to make it his own, which is incredibly frustrating. So Zara's had an opportunity to finally do something. She's had an incredible read, being able to identify where those that everyone was voting for each other, and then all the power sat with her. That was a really cool moment.
Yeah, first time ever.
Even with with AJ who's not skipped a beat since say maybe his early fumbles with Ali on the Brains tribe there has like just been thriving so hard.
Well, the hostage
just
thing that was probably, he
completely.
skipped a little bit of a beat there.
Which one, sorry?
The hostage situation was probably like he skipped some beats. And he came
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The swap it got rough.
But I feel like he was in control of that. Like that was a he was a I'd say that's more of like a a decision, like a misstep. Well, he made a conscious decision there versus like the way he was kind of working with Ali. Like he got a second chance after like managing that, learned from that relationship, changed his ways, changed his tone, changed his approach, and everything fell into place after that. And versus this is the first time we've seen AJ like it just went over his head, like that whole like just the blindness of not seeing that. That was a really, really cool moment. Like just to have that, to see someone who's been in such a position of power to just see it sail straight over his head.
Yeah, well, I mean, Zara had so much power here at the 2-1-1-1, and like we've had some questions around the split votes, and like the way I want to kind of like explain the 2-1-1-1, which I think like is maybe an oversimplified version, but an easy way to think about it is think about Zara as the swing between two pairs that split their votes. That is a bit simplified, but it was AJ and Kaylin who split Miles and Kate, and then it was Kate and Miles who split AJ and Kaylin, and Kate wasn't even in on the fact that that was going to be a split, and Zara is deciding. So that's why it doesn't matter that they split their votes, because even if, like, I talked about this with AJ and Kaylin, but like, even if Miles tells Kate, hey, we are going AJ, if they don't have Zara, the day is lost, because it's 2 votes AJ, then 2 votes Kate, and if she's against them, she will be able to decide to send home Kate on the revote. So that's an oversimplified version, because like even Kate was saying in Jury Villa, like in a world where Miles is the target and he gets 2 votes, she might have switched back to take out a Miles and not taken out a Kaylin. But the fact that Miles also is immune, so he has like a ton of power in that, and he can, try and split her vote, which he does. And the fact that AJ and Kaylin can trust each other to always be a 2 together on a revote, if it gets to that, to always vote with each other, means that Zara is like ultimately fully powerful between what would have been only a Kate, because Miles is immune, a Kate revote with AJ and Kaylin, and she will always decide that even on like a 2-2-1. So it's not really about the splits, but I think that's just a better way to kind of simplify it down. And it does get her to the point here where she is in a 2-1-1-1 over, like, again, these 2 separate splits as a swing vote. And there's been a lot of debate. Okay, I definitely came in hot, yelling about Zara's move. Peter, when I came out of the room, was like, you were yelling. I'm like, yes, I was upset about the move. Thank you for your comments at this time. Yeah, because I was upset about it. And I want to say, like, my sadness is out of love. Like, I like Zara a lot. I want her to do well. That's my main thing. And I want to say as well that like all of my thinking is around my assumptions on the jury, which is like AJ, Miles, actually Kate in her Jury Villa. People love Kate. So Kate's actually quite high up there, then kind of Kaylin, and then kind of Zara. That's kind of where I see it. So like the idea of Kate taking out like a Kaylin, like for me, that's a non-starter. She has to like sit at the end with Kaylin with the best possible resume. Now, Simon, before we get into the debate, because this has been a debate, and I do love that it's been a debate, because it gives me the opportunity to double down, which is what I want to do. But what did you think, just sight unseen, of the move to take out Kate over AJ at the point where Zara has like full control of the situation?
Yeah, I don't think it was the right decision. Do
you want to yell about it?
Oh no, I want to yell. I don't want to, like, it doesn't make me angry.
Oh.
I just don't know where to from, like I just want to I can't wait to hear from Zara and like hear what her thought process is at this time. Like she's been in a really tough spot for a long time, like working within this alliance, but like definitely not calling the shots in there, but like just having pushback at every step of the way. And then she's finally had the opportunity. She's taken the reins and done what she believes is best for her game. And I hope it is. I really do hope it is the right step for her. But I just can't. So okay, so where Zara is, she's got like AJ was a huge strategic threat there, but she's been trying to get rid of Kate for so long because Kate is her biggest physical threat there. And if you start looking at, say, Endgame in Australia, big endurance challenge, then, you know, Kate is probably the hot favorite up there with Kaylin to like take that out. But if one is just suited more to a body type kind of thing, if it's more of a, can you just write it out, or is that Pilates, the little Pilates female going to thrive in a challenge like that? Then Kate and Zara are like pretty well balanced, so it would make sense for Zara there, if her priority is to be the one, if she believes she has to win that challenge to choose who she wants to go through to the end with, then that would be the right decision for Zara there. But looking at, like, when I kind of crunched the numbers on my end, who I think Zara can win with and who needs to be there, and this is me not knowing if it's going to be a final 3 or a final 2, so kind of keeping all options open. I believe that Zara would want to have either Kaylin or Kate by her side in terms of maybe a better chance to pitch and win against them. I think Zara will have a hard time against AJ or Miles with kind of her journey there. I don't think it's like beyond her, but I think she would have her work cut out for her. So what do you think about that decision for Zara then, even you're going forward for Endgame, or for winning or making it to the end?
I think it was honestly worse for both. And firstly, I want to say that a lot of people have said, like, a lot of people I really respect, Miles himself said it was a good move for Zara on Twitter. George said it was a good move. Eden has said on Twitter it was a good move. So I want to talk about the debate and the other side. You said you wished you knew what Zara was thinking. We got some of it in the episode where she doesn't want to go in the challenge against Kate. And we can talk about what she might be thinking, which is the other side of the debate.
I want to know what her end game plan is. Yeah. That's step in. Yeah.
Maybe it's this is the other side of the debate that's been given. It's like you take out Kate now, and now you've separated Miles, who is voting for AJ, from the others, which means the others can vote out Miles, and then you go to a final 3 where you're likely to win in the challenge against AJ and Kaylin, and you cut AJ and you sit at the end with Kaylin. That's the other pathway that the debate is given. That was the first part of the debate of why it was a good move, I think, that I've seen, is that that's her pathway. And the second part of why I saw it was a good move is because if she does this now, she's just piling onto Miles's vote and playing Miles's game, and she can't claim that at the end. Here are my 2 rebuttals for me to triple down on my yelling. Firstly, the pathway to the end, we can talk about this final 4. I don't love this final 4 for her at all. I don't think that AJ should just vote out Miles because Miles voted for him. Like, what are we in preschool? Like, who cares?
No.
Do what, like, if anyone's going to do what's in his best interest, I should really hope it'll be AJ. AJ cannot allow Zara to go, and Zara and Kaylin, to go to a final 3 with him where Zara is very likely to win that challenge to cut AJ. Yeah, the fact that Zara could do that is why AJ should never allow that to happen. So I don't think that AJ can allow Miles to be cut. So firstly, just on the pathway alone, we are left with a final 4 where everyone, I think, technically, in a cool way, if you think about it, might have slightly different targets. Like, AJ should take out a Zara. I've been saying that the whole time, so that he can sit at the end he can go to the final challenge with Miles and Kaylin, and hope that Kaylin wins the challenge. And it's like, don't take Miles, take me. You're close with me, and Miles is a big threat. I think that Miles possibly should want Kaylin out to go to the final 3 with Zara and AJ. But now I feel like he can trust Zara a little less to take him through, and maybe he just wants the better challenge competitor in Kaylin. So maybe Miles should be on Zara. So that's 2 on Zara. I think Kaylin and Zara can't let each other go, obviously. So I think Kaylin should want to take out Miles, sit at the end with Zara and AJ so that Zara can take him through and he can claim agency. And I think that
so who do you think? Go on.
No, and then Zara should want to take out possibly AJ because she's technically closer to Miles, and then go to the end with like Miles and Kaylin. But also, like, if Miles is a better challenge competitor, maybe she should want Miles out. So then maybe, okay, Kaylin and Zara should be aligned on Miles, and I think maybe AJ and Miles should be aligned on Zara. Maybe it's like a Miles v Zara thing that I see on pure logic, and that's not what everyone has always done in this season. But I see Miles v Zara, and I also know that we don't know if Kaylin is just loyal to AJ, and if Kaylin is just loyal to AJ, I think this is a tricky spot for Zara. That's before we even get to the jury arguments. But I would way rather that she was in the position that Miles was painting to her, which was you take out AJ, you have Kate, who, yes, just voted against Kaylin. But even if it's not about who voted for who and whatever, it's too late in the game for to be caring about that. But it's more about everyone should actually really want Kate out of the game at the final four. The way the Jury Villa responded to Kate, Simon, I have not seen it since your Jury Villa. Like, the way people loved you in Jury Villa, genuinely, everyone should go watch their Jury Villa when they feel sad because they threw a Simon party. It was the best thing ever. But Kate, they were so nice to Kate that, like, we all wanted you to do well. And believe me, for this jury, that's a lot, because that has not been the case for every person who has walked through Jury Villa. So Kate at the final four is a huge threat who everyone should want out, because she's likely to win a final challenge, and she's honestly seemingly a really big threat at the end. So Kaylin should want Kate out at the final four, because the hope is that you go through and then Zara takes you to the end, or you win and take Zara to the end. That's a great spot. I still think he could win even with Zara getting more on her resume. Miles should want Kate out in the hope that Zara wins the challenge and takes him, which seemingly he was relying on and she might do. And Zara should want Kate out so she wins the challenge. So the three of them would actually be aligned then to take Kate out. Great pathway to get to the final three to I said cut Miles. I think that this pathway is a lot worse for Zara. Before even getting to, which I want to, the jury arguments. But like, where do you see this final four of what they should do and where, like, what Zara's pathway is here?
Yeah, look, I think Zara should have taken the move on AJ. Take him down. You can claim that. Like, and yes, Miles can as well. But like, there is no doubt that that's still, you know, at least 50% your move. And, you know, if Miles isn't there at the end, then,
Yeah,
you know, you can
plan.
probably still claim. Yeah, you can probably still claim that anyway. And like, I do really think that, like, you know, actually thinking about people in terms of, like, say, moves and just kind of story about who you can beat there, like, before, like, you know, looking into the jury as much. But, you know, I think that Zara probably wants to have, Kaylin or Kate around, like, you know, at the end. Like, you know, it would, but then just thinking, like, you know, is Kate going to be more likely to take, you know, Kaylin then over, say, as Zara? But like, at least be in with a chance there over someone you can, you know, go head to head with or have a comparable pitch. Like, I feel like if you're looking at pitches alone, I wouldn't want to be Zara trying to pitch my game against AJ's when he's played the way that he has. And even Miles, how he is, like, just for someone to be on the bottom for so long and persist and make their way through, like, regardless of how the jury would feel about someone like that, like, you have to pay that he's still been able to, you know, thrive and, you know, pull off some really big moves with, you know, with his idol and then correct idol plays, like, you know, 4 of them all negating votes. Like, there's so much there for Miles. So like, I'd be so much more wary of those bigger players here than, like, and just, you know, eliminating them than trying to worry about, like, maybe a potential challenge threat at the end.
Yeah, because Kate's not meant to be in the final three with her. So already, like, Kate's a great shield. She's using that up. Like, to me, you can just plot the path so well for the jury. And in terms of, like, advocating to the jury, and, you know, you're just piling onto Miles's move. Firstly, so verifiably untrue. I'd be saying to the jury, firstly, Miles didn't have all the information. Did you know it was going to be a 2-1-1-1? He looked pretty surprised to me. Like, exactly. So yeah, like, she didn't have all the information. She had all the information, which, again, a global first to know that you're piling on the 1-1-1-1. I would be maximizing that and taking it. And the second part of why it's not Miles's move is because at that point, you've cut Miles at the final three and Miles is on the jury. So it's like, it wasn't Miles's move. Miles's move was for me to take him to the end. He thought I was enabling his pathway. He was enabling my pathway. I was never taking him to the end. Yeah. That's why he's on the jury. I'm not on the jury. And this was completely my pathway. So you can say it was Miles's move. Did he get him to the end? This set up my pathway to get to the end without Miles in a way that I had way more information than him. And that's the argument. So I don't think that's that you're really piling onto Miles's move. And if anything, you could say now she's meant to be sitting next to Kaylin. You could say she piled onto AJ and Kaylin, and she's sitting next to Kaylin. So Kaylin can take credit of, look how Zara did what was not in her best interest on what a vote that I wanted, which was splitting onto Kate and having that shield in front of me.
Yep. Yeah, I think that there's so much merit in that. And, you know, because Miles, like, it's not even going to be Miles's big move anyway. If he, like, I mean, look, if it did go ahead, like, obviously it'd be not great to be taking out AJ at that kind of point in time. But, like, Miles has enough, like, you know, crazy stuff on his resume that, like, you know, it'll be up there in his top 3. But, like, there's other stuff there. So he's not, like, as reliant on that versus how reliant Zara was to have something that was purely hers when she's been just part of a larger alliance and compromising. And, having AJ go and change the votes all the time. So like,
Yeah.
it's a tough spot. And I'd love to know. I think that the big thing that hinges for me is what Kaelin's, like, what his approach would be at the end. Like getting an insight into where his headspace is would really kind of change how, if I was, AJ, Miles, or Zara, or even Kate, how I would play around that, knowing that he's on this absolute tear of a challenge streak, knowing that, he's kind of the one you probably want to be sitting next to at this stage, I would say. Like, everyone is kind of like would want that, but like, is he actually just going to take AJ because they've been the best of buds and I've had a great experience out here and I owe it to him? Or does Kaelin have it in him to make a $500,000 decision and, take someone who he can maybe hold a pitch against? So I think that's the really critical piece of information that we just don't have.
Yeah, I think that if Kaelin is blindly loyal to AJ, like, I think Zara should be very worried. And if Kaelin is working in his own best interest, he should keep Zara. But now I don't know that Zara has enough to beat him at the end against a jury. Like, I think even if she made this move, it would be a hard sell just because of, I think, probably how the jury feels. Like, for me, I guess it's like how you see the coven. If it's like, no, she has the coven, I see the coven as a negative. I don't see Laura coming in advocating for Zara, but I do see Laura as a really big fan who will, like, I think, react well to good moves. If I was on the jury, I'd be like, the argument of taking out AJ at the final 5 in a really strong way and then Miles at the final 3 when you were immune both times, like, that would really appeal to me because it makes a lot of sense. Whereas I feel like even now, so now she's going through to a final 4 where, again, the best case scenario I think for her is that everyone takes out Miles, which to me would be, again, a game losing move, possibly for AJ. I don't think that AJ should do that. I think that AJ and Miles should at least have each other through this vote, that on her, probably. But even if she were to do that, like, I was already worried with the best argument in my mind of her against Kaelin. Now, even if she does that, she takes out Miles at the final 4. Her, AJ, Kaelin take out Miles at this final 4. And then she wins the challenge against probably the best challenge group for her, which is AJ and Kaelin. And she cuts AJ and she takes Kaelin. That's not a great argument for me because I feel like, are you getting credit at the final 4 or is Kaelin who's sitting next to you when he and AJ had all the power to take out a Miles? And then you take Kaelin, but Kaelin can be like, I had agency over that too. Look how I've, like, controlled this pathway more than Zara's had control. So I don't think that the argument of taking out Miles with the 3 of you next is much of an argument. And then you cut AJ. Yeah. I think that this move was so individual, so rarely uniquely powerful that using it in a big way that you can credit it because no one else had the information in its best possible way. I think, then you go for AJ. But the issue, I think, with Zara as well is that not only has she been, like, not the decision maker, she's been pitched the most by the other side and had to turn them down. And I think it only reinforces a sense of her. Like, you don't want to reinforce the negativity that jurors might have about you, especially as you send them out of the game and they're like, why aren't you making a move with us? Which we literally heard Morgan, who was not on the jury, say. But that is, I think, the viewpoint. You'd hate to reinforce that more where they, like, this upends that. It's like, oh, she was just waiting to make the move and boy, did she make it. But now it's like, okay, you just did exactly what you've been doing, which has been all of our demise. None of us have liked or respected that. And then, yeah, okay, fine. If they take out Miles, which they shouldn't. But if they somehow take out Miles, that's Zara's move. That was what we were waiting for. That was the big move. Like, as a juror for me, I'd be like, I don't see why it's yours. And I'm also kind of underwhelmed, personally.
Yeah. The other thing I want to pick your brains on is, what do you think about if Zara was to take out Kaelin at this point in time when he doesn't have the necklace, when so many of the others are reliant on Kaelin in their endgame there, and how that ruffles people's feathers? Does that actually, like, yes, you've still got Kate, who's your big challenge threat there, but getting rid of Kaelin whilst he's exposed in a way, what do you think of that?
Yeah, because she can take out anyone other than Miles. I was talking about this with Omar, who suggested it. For me, it's a non-starter just because I think if she takes out Kaelin, she can't win the game. Like, I think she can, at her best, maybe beat Kaelin alone. Like, I don't think she can beat Kate. You have to see the way that they reacted to Kate, Simon. I've never seen the jury happy. Believe me, this is what they literally compared it. They said, Kate, you're having a good welcome because everyone yelled at me and then not yelling at you. She can't beat Kate. I don't think she can beat AJ. I don't think she can beat Miles. So at the point where she's taking out Kaelin, like, even if it's a cool move and she's like the challenge beast slayer, I don't see that there's anyone she can beat. I think she needs to tie herself to Caitlyn, strap herself to Caitlyn and never let go. So for me, I don't think that that's what she should do.
Okay. I probably should have watched Kate's reception in
That's literally
the
it.
jury
It's
hall
just
to get the If
I've described it
and that,
perfectly. There's nothing else to know. Kate came in and they were like, we were rooting for you, and they loved Kate. And again, this jury doesn't usually do that.
Yep. Yeah.
Right, because
Cool.
you saw Kate as like lower in the jury. But I think the other thing with Kate is that Zara needs to win the final challenge to make a clear cut.
Kate's been a target for a long time. Like, her name's been thrown around for so long, and she's just like the last of the Brawns there. So like, yeah, she's obviously been copying a tough time, but like everyone does seem to have like a lovely like relationship with her there.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised by that. And like, yeah, it's always like well and good to like to root for someone that you like, but it's like, oh, if you actually get to the end and like how important that that pitch is, and you kind of your game and how much you can kind of dictate your, I don't know, or I guess claim your right to passage to be there and stuff. Like, I don't think it's out of the question for for Zara to be comparable to be able to beat Kate in a final pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also leaves her with a tricky final four, where I think that taking out
Yes.
AJ is clear. This is tricky anyway, but I think like there's a lot of tricky final fours, by the way. Like there's so many final
Yeah.
fours that I've
So
like
many.
worked out in my mind where I'm like, everyone might have a different perspective here, which is actually really cool. But yeah, I think that anyway means like AJ and Miles should definitely want Kate out at the final four. And if she's trying to get to the end with Kate, I think that that's hard for her anyway. And I also think the issue is she needs to win the final challenge to make the cut, whether that cut for some people is like take out Miles at 4, then cut AJ at 3. For me, it's cut AJ at 5, Miles at 3. But you want to be the one in the position of power to do that. And I think by taking Kate to the final 3, who's by far her biggest challenge competitor in endurance, you are also opening up the possibility that Kate wins the challenge and takes you, and then can just claim that in a way that you can't even claim the power there. So I think Kate is a great.
But if it's AJ or Miles, like Kate's not going to take them, right? Like it just
Yeah,
has to be
exactly.
Caleb.
But she's taking you. Like you want to be the one to cut AJ or Miles at 3. But now Kate's winning the challenge and she's cutting AJ or Miles at 3 to take you. Now you're just dragged to the end. Like you couldn't see more dragged at that point. I think Kate is a big threat at 4. That is one of the best parts of Miles's plan for Zara, I think, is that like they should want Kate out at 4 as an immunity threat and apparently as a jury threat. And that's why it's perfect. I can't yell more. I can't yell more. Actually,
no more notes.
Yeah, I've had enough tea, but I think that literally the tea, and I had to drink tea for my throat from the yelling. But I'm glad that I could double down because I'm like, I see your point, I hear you, and here's why I disagree. So that's where I'm going to with the 2-1-1-1. What did you think of this final 6 vote? I think in hindsight, I've talked about it subsequently. It seemed kind of like a snoozy episode, but I think there was some really interesting stuff here around the fact that technically all of the post-crads before the challenge, which we'll talk about because present company included, of the fact that this was a very relevant challenge for you to be the guest this week. But before the challenge, technically any of the 4 can come over the top of the split. And like I've spent way too much time in the last few days, like running down whether I think they should have. So firstly, what did you think of this challenge? We got some questions being that this was your challenge that you won in episode 7, leading to what the New York Times said was like one of the best episodes of television ever, even though it doesn't air on American TV. John Hatfield asked if this tribal challenge you think is a cop-out, despite the fact that it helped you. What do we think about it here? What do we think about it so late where we're literally doing it at the final 6?
Yeah, interesting, interesting mechanism to be pulling at the final 6 when someone's already got an individual like immunity necklace. Like it's just I guess it makes a difference in like say pre-merge when no one has like open visible immunity there without swinging an idol around their head. But like it does feel very late to be like meddling with something like this. But it's also interesting where it's like it might just be enough to to tip the scales one way or another. And like Kate winning probably only like really affected really kind of just shut down things for AJ kind of got his way, right? Like with Morgan going and Kate staying. So like did I like it? I would have liked to see it earlier in the piece. I think when there's more people and there's kind of more chaos, I think that becomes more fun. Yeah, I feel like when you're getting this close to the end, pulling stuff like that, it's like, oh, it's don't mess with it, because it's probably going to be interesting enough as it is when you only got 2 more tribals to be playing with, idols and stuff like that. Now, as we saw, there was one hidden idol in play, 2 necklaces. Then it's like, wow, there's it's a very small amount of people who can actually be vulnerable here. Yeah, I thought maybe like an 8. I reckon probably like the last time I'd want to see that, because 7's always a fun number to just let it ride. 7 and 5 are always kind of cool. So yeah, maybe at 8, play that there.
Yeah, it's funny that you're not so high on it, because it's definitely like your legacy. Like, they should have a statue of you in the nighttime tribal place. Like, it's because of your impact that you won. If you didn't win that and make that episode happen, there's no way this is happening now. Like, you have made it, and it was very, very different in Titans v Rebels, but you've made the nighttime challenge, I genuinely think, like a seasonal staple, and that's all you.
Yeah, and it's like, so that in terms of as a staple, as an element in the game, absolutely love it. So like that is really cool. And I think that it does add a little bit of spice where you do force people to like think on the fly, change plans, like that. Makes things potentially exciting based on who wins what. But yeah, so I do love that. And you can kind of you sniff it out. Where you're like, oh, hang on a tick. Well, there's no reward challenge here. Like, why are we going to
it's a Sunday night
really early? Like, what's the go?
Well, it shouldn't have been. It should have been a Tuesday night. So it is possible that they could have thought it was a shorter episode. They sometimes do that in the late Tuesday night episode. So that's a very difficult one to predict, that there might not have been a
but from an actual planning point of view, from the producers, of course, because you don't know if you're going to be rolling out 3 episodes a week or 2, but you just at that point you just want every episode to be a good one. So look, it wasn't as thrilling as what we've seen in the past, but it was it still delivered.
Yeah, a lot of
and it's great. Like from a visual point of view, it's just beautiful. Like it's so fun.
Yeah, but there were a lot of comments of like, why couldn't the jury watch this? What are the jury doing? Why? Like, I think because now we have a jury. Like when you did it was pre-merge, but it would be funny to have seen them just kind of huddled, because there was no like seating area. They could have brought out some chairs and like maybe some popcorn that Kaylin also should have been able, and just like sat there with Kaylin watching the challenge. I think so.
Yeah, and even just to see how people are going, like what effort they're putting in, like who's chatting to who and stuff like that. Like I feel like if that's at Tribal, you should be able to view it. Like no talking, no cheering or anything like that. Like you are just pure spectating, but like it's part of Tribal to be consuming. So let the jury snack.
Yeah, and Kaylin. I really think Kaylin should have got something out of winning the first immunity. But you mentioned that
I would have liked to see him compete again and just have like the 2 necklaces.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that he genuinely definitely should have had that. But if not, I said at least a burger. Because he won the first challenge. You should get get something from that.
And then let him compete, and then he can, I don't know, he has to give it to someone or something like that. It's then even just stopping stuff from someone else getting it. But I don't know. He's had so many. Like, does it?
No, he's earned those immunities. Like, this is the whole point. Kaylin's entire thing that he always said is, I win the immunities for my side to protect them. And the first time that wasn't done was because he wasn't allowed to compete. His whole thing is he protects others from not winning it. And then they literally disqualified him from the challenge. And then Kate did win, which we can talk about it now. Actually, probably was better for Kaylin in the end. But because I think that if Kate being here, obviously the shielding strategy ended up being very good for both AJ and Kaylin. But yeah, I mean, he should have been able to make the decision. And then it's like, also if he does it, it's like a public move. Like he has to make that choice. Like that's very fun. Would have been AJ.
Okay, so interesting side note on this. I really want to know if AJ is downplaying his like individual challenge skills, because I don't know if he's just like intentionally flopping the whole way through, or just like doesn't have that same level of enthusiasm. But I feel like AJ doesn't have his foot to the floor in these challenges. I think he's a little bit blasé.
A lot of challenges. It's a good assumption to make that Miles has an idol and AJ is throwing the challenge. That's kind of what I've learned from this.
But like, is he downplaying his like physical ability all the way through here, and just happy to, he's got his best mate out there, like just winning them, so he knows where it is. He can at least keep it out of the people he's trying to target. Like it's there's almost no risk by Kalen having it for him when he's in control of the tribe. So I reckon AJ might be playing it down. Might be a hot take, but I'll have to pick his brains at some stage.
Yeah, well, Mickey Carlene asked your thoughts on the challenge throwing, because I know that you used to do the points on challenge, like kind of the chizzy of challenges, the challenge-izzy, I think is what the name should be. And you are like, someone who they threw a challenge to get rid of in Brains V Brawn. So what are your probably trauma-based feelings around challenge throwing? Because it's been such a big part of the season. When we talk about the reception, see, again, for me, it's like I loved that. That was one of my favorite parts of the season when we were in because I think that's so interesting, because it's like pure strategy in the challenges, which I'm usually 2-timesing, and now I care because I'm thinking about it strategically, which other people are like, literally to this day, I still see comments that like, it's such a bad season, people are throwing challenges. I'm like, get over it. It's been 4 years. But how do you feel about that? Because you like the challenges a lot more than I do. So I'm really interested in your thoughts on that.
Yeah, maybe I should be like the sports reporter. Get me out there.
On the boundary reporter on the challenges. At least you could see it while the jury are waiting back, just twiddling their thumbs, wondering what's happening in the challenge.
Do it next time they bring Talking Trouble back, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
Bring back Talking Trouble. Look, I'm so torn between this, because I get it does make so much sense from a strategic point of view, right? But I can bring myself to throw a challenge, like, if I need to. But then I just think if you take a step back on a longer, like on a bigger picture, you just how do you think Croc feels about throwing challenges, right? When he threw the challenge to, I can't remember, was it Jesse or someone he was trying to get rid of, and then he got voted out himself. Like everything just went pear-shaped for him in Bloodburst Water. That happens more often than not. And just with like the amount of idols out there, the amount of other twists and bits and pieces, like I just think for the longevity of your game, sometimes you are just better off not being at tribal. And then, it might just help you be one less tribal council away from tribe swap, one less tribal council away from, merge. And I know that sweet spot for throwing challenges is really going to be post swap, pre-merge, when there's actually reason to protect your investments and your friendships on the other side. But I just think I just don't think it's a good idea in the end. But like, God, you're out there at times and you're just like, we need to lose this, and it just makes perfect sense. But like, if you don't have 100% of the information, you just gotta be so confident before you make that call, hey. And I think the people who have been throwing the challenges this time have had that power there and have been pretty lucky at the same time that nothing's gone pear-shaped for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a calculated risk, but that's what makes it so fun. Like, that's why when people get so angry about it, I don't understand it, because that person is taking a risk that can play out badly, and that is so entertaining. Like, if that person goes home because of that and it explodes, that's such good TV. And that's the risk you always take. Like, you are losing something too. You are losing your own immunity. What if they have an idol? Like, there are ways, obviously, you can cover that. What if you can split? But you're still putting your trust in people, and it can go badly. And that's why it's fun. Like, even the people that were upset that AJ clearly seemed to be throwing at the immunity challenge where Logan went, and it was kind of a group challenge first, and like, everyone should always have the right to compete in an individual challenge, but it's like AJ gave that up too. And then there was the potential of rocks. Like, what if AJ goes on a lot would have had to happen, but what if AJ goes on the rock there? And it's like, you idiot. Like, this is what's always so fun about, even when in the US, when they do compete, you can sit out, and it's like, okay, that's a calculated risk. And if you you're gaining something and you're losing something, it's like you're having to rely on your reads and your decisions, and it can definitely go badly. And that's why it's fun. It's not like this sure thing.
Yeah.
I think that's only damaging one person. Like, it's not like, if you throw a challenge and you vote someone out, like, obviously it seems that way. It's like, would you put yourself at risk? And that's why it's fun, I think.
And even like, just you don't really know how your tribe mates are all going to react as well.
Exactly.
Are you doing this alone? Are you Are you working with people and stuff? I think that look, kudos to anyone who is able to throw a challenge and pull it off, because I think that the amount and volume of risks is huge to be like, there's just so many factors that you need to go your way to have that reward really pay off for you. So don't do it.
Well, maybe it's the same as like splitting the vote. Like sometimes it'll be good, sometimes it'll be bad. And that's what people were saying about Kate here, that Kate maybe should have thrown if she had more of if she'd been given something, because then people could still come over the top. At the point where she won, you couldn't come over the top of the split. But like, this is what I love about Survivor, is that the first time there was ever a swap, Ethan was throwing the challenge, because my interests are actually on the other side. The first season of Survivor, Richard Hatch threw the final challenge because he thought that was a better way for Kelly to take him. He knew he'd be taken either way, and he didn't want to upset Rudy, and then wins the jury vote by 1 vote. Like, that's the strategy of Survivor that I love so much. It's like throwing challenges has been such a major part of so many seasons across so many franchises, and it's a wonderful part of the show. The people who are like, bad season challenge throwing, I'm like, okay, at least it's entertaining. Like, are you the people being voted out? Like, why is that so offensive to you? But yeah, let's talk about this for AJ.
The double. I would have liked to see, like, you just want to wrap that up, when Ben and AJ were doing the double throw, essentially, to literally for JLP to be like, nah, this is happening, you're both going to tribal. Like,
they don't want to do that. We would have needed another non-elim, or they make fire.
Like, vote both of them out, and then they have a competition, so only one of them actually goes home. But then you just like ruffle the feathers on the way through. I just think that it's a cool way to show that there are implications from the decisions that you are making.
I think they should let it play out, because I don't want them to put restrictions on challenge throwing. Like, oh no, but we can't do that. What if they're throwing and then we both go to tribal? Like, no, let them throw. And like, don't punish them for it. It's great TV. Like, just let that play out. It'll be nighttime. Let's see how far this could go. That's the way I'd handle it. Yeah, like, you want to be here all day? Then if you want that loss to your social capital of throwing that ball just near that net or whatever it was for the next 3 hours, like, I can sit here all day. And if I were JLP, I'd get a little chair and a little cocktail, and I'd be like, you do you. That's how I would handle it. I think that's hilarious. Like, yeah, that's how I would play it. But I think they probably would have just sent them to tribal and maybe made them make a fire. But if the threat was enough, and that was interesting, great TV. Why are people upset about this?
Okay. And look, and there is nothing better than watching someone, like, from a viewer's point of view, watching someone throw a challenge and it blows up in their face. Like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, like, if you hate challenge throwing, like, go watch those episodes. We've had enough of it. Like, we've had people fail to throw challenges. We've had people go home when they throw. It's so much good stuff. We've had people who don't go home, but people like are mad about it. Great TV. For AJ in this vote, I was thinking about this, talking about this with my brother. AJ really wants Morgan to go, right? And we do see why that becomes important. And I have said that at the point where Morgan stays, does AJ stay here? Like, does Zara make the same move? And like, at a point where like AJ and Kaylin are on the back foot, and Miles has the power with like a Morgan and a Zara and an idol, and then Zara's going to win immunity. Like, it was a perfect situation to be bad for AJ. His shielding strategy wins out. If Kate is gone, and that was what was meant to happen, should he really radically put his foot down on that? And I've been looking back at that, and I was talking to my brother about this, and we were thinking, had it been a split, 2 votes Kate, 2 votes Morgan, 2 votes Miles, and you can assume it'll be 2 votes Miles or Zara, unlikely to be AJ, who they've been working with. Kaylin is immune. If the revote rules are what they've always been for 3-person ties, we don't know. In US Survivor, they changed the rules on if people have lost a vote. That should change the rules on ties, where everyone should be able to vote. But if the rules are as we've always had them with 3-person ties, the only revoters should be AJ, Kaylin, and Zara. Miles doesn't vote, Morgan doesn't vote, Kate doesn't vote. AJ and Kaylin can just send Morgan home at that point. I think it's an interesting thing to explore, of them just coming over the top there. Well, not coming over the top, literally just voting her out on. What do you think about that? It's audacious. It's blowing up your alliance to just send out someone from outside of the alliance, which I don't think I like. I think I'm not into my own my brother's idea. Sorry, Jay. But I think it's an interesting idea to explore, because that would have been a lot, I think, to do that.
Yeah, look, as I was binge watching the episode last night and going straight into the next episode, it's definitely not something that crossed my mind.
It wasn't. I covered the episode and I didn't think of it at the time, but it is a fun idea.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, there's merit in it, like, and there's where there's merit, there's opportunity, you know. So like, it's not to be discounted. Um, how much social damage are you doing
Yeah.
by going down that route, like by doing it that way to get the result that you want? Now you're opening yourself up to too much vulnerability and risk for, you know, other
Yeah.
people actually, like, you know, twisting that. Like, if that's the result that you're going for, and that's the path that you need to go to get to that point, like, does the stakeholders that you're keeping on side, you know, out to do it that way, outweigh the risk of you know,
Yeah.
it going pear shaped?
That is kind of where I ended up with it because it is like in the vein of the season, very much a half measure, I feel, where like you blow up the alliance by doing something they don't want you to do because you have the numerical power to do it. But so you get to keep the target you want, but if you've blown up your alliance, kind of what's the point? Because the hope is that like Zara will vote with you the next time to take out the shielding Kate, which she does. But if Zara's so angry at you because again you've kept Kate, who she's really wanted out of the game, like maybe at that point she just comes for you. So I do wonder, like I think that kind of limits you and is probably not like what you necessarily should do, even though I do think it's fun because I do think that, yeah, AJ
So note
getting
for
rid of Morgan.
anyone listening who ends up playing in the future, if you have the opportunity to go for a really convoluted way to like get someone out like that, do it, because Shannon will praise you for it.
Well, I don't know that I don't think like I think that blowing up the alliance to still keep the alliance is probably it would have been fun, but I don't know that it would have been advised. I think I would
Well,
definitely
yeah.
have fun with it. I had fun with the 2-1-1-1,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily agree with everything that everyone did. But yeah, I mean, I think that the thing is that Morgan going is so good for AJ, and definitely like this happening that she wins
Mm.
immunity, like Kate staying communally, best case scenario, because then like she is the shield and you haven't pissed anyone off. Even for Kaylin, who I think like maybe you want Morgan there to try and like sit next to her. But the thing is, like, if Morgan's a goat potential there for like a Zara, now you want to sit at the end with Zara or Morgan, and Zara wants to sit with Morgan. Now you've given Zara an opportunity. Whereas if you actually get rid of Morgan, you and Zara should have, I think, like a mutual incentive to go to the end together. So losing Morgan, I don't think is even that bad for Kaylin. So I think getting Morgan out on the challenge win worked out great. I don't know that I would say that they should explode their social capital to do it, but I do think it worked out great. I think that for me, I'm looking at it now, and I think that yeah, like I'm more and more, we talked about this even on the recap of the next episode, but I'm like more and more into the idea of AJ and Kaylin. At that point, if you're going to blow it up, like then just turn. Like
Okay, but
AJ should.
are you blowing it up for the sake of a move here? Like in any
Well,
like, you
it's
know,
more for the target. Like it's more to get Morgan out, which is good for them. But then you lose so much social capital that anything you were going to gain in having
I
Kate
think it
as a
makes sense
shield.
from, yeah,
Yeah.
from that point of view to ruin that at 6 when you don't, you know, if you're AJ, like, yes, you've already like stepped on all these people's toes,
Yes.
but like, is this going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, or are you
He
going
has good
to?
recovery. That's the
He
like,
has
hey, that's like
very
the
good recovery.
yeah. So
So, but you
yeah.
can see like how thin it was wearing with Karen and how thin it's wearing with, you know, or with Zara and who else am I thinking of? Logan. Like, you know, she, like, you know, just it was really, really wearing thin, and the people who it's almost wearing thin on the most are now find themselves on the jury. So it's like, yeah, it's impressive that it hasn't, like, you know, it hasn't broken anyone else to the point of like, this has to happen. And, you know, even to the point where like Zara, when she had the opportunity to, as frustrated as she was with, you know, AJ supposedly, still chose to vote out Kate. Like,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah.
But
So
that's the thing as
he's doing
well.
something right.
If you keep Kate by doing that, like she might take out AJ at that point out of pure anger. And also I think she should logically be taking out AJ. So I see a lot of logic on the path, and she's also been
Mm,
emotionally incentivized to do that because then Kate's a great shield. Whereas what I think is an interesting idea is we have spoken a bit about this, but like for in different ways, AJ possibly targeting a Zara. Because again, this is what's so interesting about this vote to me is like at the point where there's a split, any of the post grads can come over the top of the split and offer that to Morgan
mm.
and Kate, who are desperate and don't want to vote each other out. Even though I think that would be best for Kate to lose Morgan, even though Kate
So
went, but I think she shouldn't have. So yeah, so there's something there. Should AJ turn on Zara? Should Kaylin turn on Miles? Should Miles turn
mm.
on AJ? Should Zara turn on AJ? All of that to me
Well,
individually
I
are
think
like interesting discussions.
whoever goes home now, like at 4 in the next vote, I think it will be very clear that that person obviously missed their chance at 6 to, you know, jump across and go over the top of the post grads. because that's going to be the defining point that could have changed their game. If they're the one who's going to find themselves on the bottom of that alliance, like that was your opportunity right there. And if you could,
yeah. Well, the thing I think is interesting about that is like that is true for the final four, but also this final five wasn't as it was meant to be. Like Kate wins that challenge, so it's more interesting for me for AJ and
yes,
Kaylin because
yeah.
they were going to allow seemingly Kate to go, and then I think this final five looks very different. So it's more about should they then turn on the alliance so that we don't get to a point where Morgan is here instead of Kate, which had been the plan that we saw. And that's what, so to me, it's not where the final four ends up because this wasn't meant to be the final five that we had. And this was clearly worked out for Kaylin and AJ in an intentional way where they had the shield. They weren't meant to have the shield. We saw it that Kate saved herself in the challenge.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I just feel like like someone's probably keeping themselves up at night. Whoever that person who has got eliminated, who's had a misstep here, you trace it back to be like, oh, maybe it was that the opportunity there for me to, change the end game.
Well, if that is Zara, then I feel like, to be fair, her opportunity was missed at 5. But then I also think she had the opportunity at 5 because of a 2-1-1-1, which was unforeseeable, or because Miles had an idol that she didn't know about, and she won immunity, which didn't hurt. Like, it did set her up ideally into what I thought was a perfect path that she didn't take. So you can blame the final 5, but maybe you should blame the final 6, because how could you even know that you would get to such a great path for me at final 5?
You don't even, because usually, like, so much can change in a day, 24 hours, 48 hours. Like, geez, when that opportunity's there, you don't know if that's ever going to come up again. Like, especially that close to the end, when people are kind of, you got people like Kaylin, like, locked in their ways, doing their thing, and then, say an AJ and Miles willing to do absolutely anything to ensure that they're not just at the end, but sitting next to whoever they want. Like, it's a dangerous position to just be, just to let those opportunities like slide on by. So yeah, I think I think Kate was doing the right things, like seemed to be having the right conversations at that point in time. Like I almost expected something to happen there, given how fluid these alliances have been. I really expected someone to jump over the top and to take control there. But not meant to be this season.
Well, what do you think about the idea of like AJ coming over the top on like a Zara? Because I think that one of the best things about a move, or if Kaylin comes over the top on like a Miles, I think one of the best things about that move is it gets you to 5, where you have Kate and Morgan both there, and you just have to take out Kate. Because going to 4 with Kate and Morgan, and then a possible 3 with Kate, feels way too dangerous. So even if like you're angry, if Kaylin takes out a Miles and Zara's very angry about it, then I still feel like you can't be that. Like now, like if she was angry because they like blew it up and took out Morgan instead of Kate, like then she has some room to move where she can still take you out. But like I feel like it shoehorns everyone. Or like if AJ were to take out Zara, Miles, Kaylin, and AJ have to just take out a Kate at 5.
You have an opportunity to almost flip back, right? Because
you have, and everyone is so incentivized to take out Kate, and then it gets you to the point where you've now like then I think the 4s become tricky, because then like for example, like if Kaylin takes out,
do they become trickier than they are now?
The 4s are so tricky in every. I don't think people understand how tricky the 4s are, but the 4s there's so much going on with at 4. But like then I think like say if Kaylin takes out Miles and then you have to take out Kate, now you've gotten to the end with Zara and Morgan at the final 4, like Kaylin, AJ, Zara, and Morgan, and like Zara and Morgan again should never part from each other. So I think that makes the 4 really tricky. And like if AJ takes out a Zara and then has to take out a Kate, I think that Miles and Morgan could shore up, and like Miles would really won over Morgan there. So it makes 4 tricky. But the thing is, 4's tricky now, and also 4's only allowed to be tricky now because they got to keep Kate. Do you know what like maybe they don't even get to the tricky 4 if what was meant to, I think, happen of Morgan going happened. So at the point where it looked like Morgan was walking into tribal council, like there might have been something about flipping it to even get to the tricky 4, which at that point would have been a privilege and an honor.
And you're also trying to forecast. Like the huge thing here is we also don't know, like if you're a player out there, you don't know if it's going to be a 3 or a 2, right? And
yeah, I'm assuming a 2. Looks like, they seem to really think it's a 2. I mean, now with Morgan not being on the jury, we can talk. I think that changes things, but I think that they think it's a 2. But again, like we had that twist was in Heroes versus Villains, right? That they didn't know until the very end.
Yeah. Well,
It's
yeah,
impossible to
it's
play your
just
game not knowing. You have to honestly just pick a lane and just hope for the best. I think that's how I've always
and that's
recommended
it.
people play a 3 or 2. If you don't know if it's going to be a final 3 or 2, pick a lane of what you think it'll be and hope for the best. And like hopefully you have outs if it changes. That's how I
Yeah.
have always seen that.
Or you just have to you expect the unexpected, but you have to factor that into your considerations. And I think you have to start counting down from 6, 5, 4 to be like, in both scenarios, how does this look for me? Like, yes, you have to get there, but like, geez, if you're not there with the right people, like, oh, you don't just want to get dragged along as well. So this is something I know absolutely nothing about because I haven't even got close. But
You got pretty close.
Oh yeah, close enough. But like, it was a closing door. Yeah, like I think it's just so much to factor in, being like at that 5 and 4 to be like, is this a 3 or a 2, and how do I actually take this next step? And it's such a huge call, like,
Well,
because if you miscalculate and you double down on that, then, or if you put all your eggs in that basket, and I guess you have to,
you have to.
you have to make a decision, but like, it really hurts when that doesn't go well. Like for Maddie, in Heroes v Villains, like he doubled down on the final 2, and then was just
It wasn't a final
heartbroken
2.
when it wasn't, and he had nothing left. And so yeah, that's kind of one of those things that I'm not sure if I had factored into his consideration as much, or just like banked on it. But yeah, it does change how you play out the end game.
Yeah, it is often opposite. And that's why I've always felt so bad for Matt, because I realized after the season, I was like, oh, Matt won the final 2 of the season and everyone thought it was a final 2. Matt won the game that everyone was playing. And I was like, that sucks. And unfortunately, like, Matt wasn't a big enough character for people to be like up in arms about it. But like, for me, in the interest of fairness, I was like, I see you. You won the final 2. Liz won the final 3. And the thing is, it's so often a completely opposite strategy. Like for some people, just how it works out, you could maybe play it similarly. As an example, AJ and Miles should get to 3 together. I've been thinking to paint the other one as a threat at 3 at the challenge. If it's a final 3, they should just be doing that at 4. So you kind of can keep going down that path, and then the cut is hopefully made at the final round. Compared to like a Kaylin, if it's a final 3, then at the final 6, this is completely different for Kaylin. Kaylin needs Kate out. And then he needs to go to Zara and Morgan and be like, we're the 3 that are the jury goats. Let's all sit next to each other and take out AJ and Miles in some order at 5 and 4. At the point where Kate has won immunity, if he takes out Morgan, then like that's basically a game-losing move, because who are the 2 people he will beat? We know that they really
and
like
it just
Kate.
like, and that doesn't even look like that's being entertained at all. To like,
yeah,
no one's. I mean, Cameron's not even worried about him, about himself, like not having the resume as such. I think we saw him speaking about like, he's as a challenge enthusiast and just an all round nice guy. Is that going to be enough to get me over the line?
I think he knows, because he's downplayed it himself. So he has to know that that's what makes it challenging at the end. It gives you freedom during the game, but it's challenging at the end of the road.
It's a challenging pitch, yeah.
But like, so that's why I think that if it's a final 6 and Kate wins immunity, at that point he has to turn on Miles or AJ, and he can't let Morgan go. And he has to go to the end with Morgan and Zara, because at that point you need 2 people to beat at the end. And in getting rid of Morgan, I don't know if he has it, but in a final 2, getting rid of Morgan has some benefits, because now Zara should be logically more reliant on you so that you can go to 2 together and she can't have the out of Morgan. Completely opposite strategy. And if you don't know if it's a final 3 or 2, I don't have a suggestion of how to play that. You literally have to pick a basket to put your eggs in. Like, I don't have another, and so it seems like they've all been playing for a 2. Like,
and
you always hear
you can
about
try what you can to, like, when you're out there to, like, count the episodes and know what it's going to be, but like, it can happen at the very last minute.
Last minute on a limb.
There's a jury removal and something like that. So it's like, you just, without actually having that piece of information, far out. I mean, good luck to anyone who finds himself in that situation.
Yeah, like if a final 2, it's great that Kaylin has shields and then hopefully Zara to sit next to at the end. In a final 3, those shields will beat him in the end, and he kind of left them all in at the final 5. 3 of them are going to beat you mathematically. Like, it's so different. So for some people, it's just a slight change in strategy, and for other people, like we saw from Matt, it's a completely different pathway. And like literally you just have to
Mm.
start the course and just keep going and hope for the best. And that's why I really don't like them telling them if it's final 3 or 2 late. I would just rather it was always a final 2, but like definitely I want people to know the game they're playing. That's a very big overarching theme for me. So, and this one might not be, you know, production's fault if someone like Morgan left the jury. I don't know, maybe that like again, because we talked about a lot of people, we got a lot of questions from people around what would happen in an 8-person jury with a final 2 if it's a 4-4. And like, you know, we hear a lot, maybe it'll be fire. It seems logically like it would be fire. I just want to put it out there how much I would really hate that. Like, there is no better solution. But like for me, I would be calling Morgan and be like, who would you have voted for? And obviously, like she wouldn't have seen the end of the game, so it's not really fair. But like, yeah, fire. If someone wins fire to win the game, and that's the difference between winning or losing, I would count you as co-winners. That's not winning.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
was
even
gonna
like
say,
when the final
do you
4 is
split it?
decided like that. Yeah, split the money way more than like more than fire. Genuinely, that's not a way to win the game. That's not even a way to decide a vote. So I wouldn't like that.
I think I think I would rather see. Oh yeah, I think I'd rather see a split win, like a joint win, if it just
Split
happened
win,
that
Hunger
way.
Game style.
Yep.
Yeah, people
Um.
love that in the Hunger
Uh,
Games.
yeah, they did.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
Um. Yeah. Jeez, it's just a lot
Because
to
there's no good solution. Fan vote, terrible, awful, hard to coordinate, hate that. Fire, terrible. Any type of challenge, awful. I don't have a solution for the 8-person jury. I mean, like, and this is to be fair, they've had like 9-person juries for a final 3, which has like similar things. But then, like,
Or
maybe
is it,
people
is it like
re-vote.
is it the last? I don't know. Is there more power on like the whoever the last person added to the jury was? Like, are they the deciding vote? You know what
No,
I
I
mean? Like
don't think so.
their vote has more power or something. Like but it
Mhm.
would have to be said like in the case of a tie or something like that, or even like, do you drop like if it is say 4-4, do you drop the vote from the first person on the jury there? Who knows? But I mean, they
Yeah,
can
maybe
always
you
just
just
remove it.
kick out the first juror, like because the whole point is like if they're going to do a juror removal, and the juror removal does have strategy because the person who wins needs to like choose. And we've seen people choose the wrong person. You could also do the less
It can also
mean
happen in the same
version.
episode. It doesn't need to
I
be its
don't
own
know.
episode.
I looked at the TV guide. Like, firstly, if you don't want to do juror removal, you could do juror add, where the person has to add a vote to someone, and again, you could choose wrong. So that's an interesting
True.
thing. But I looked it up. So Sunday night is a shorter episode, so there's only one challenge. So either if it's the non-elim, then it will be a final 3, and then the second episode's not that long. Like it'll definitely just be the challenge and then final tribal council. It's just like a regular like 70-minute episode. So other than just like kicking Laura off the jury for being there first, which I
Is
hope
that
they don't do
standard?
that.
Is that
It was what?
is that standard in terms of the timings for the
Yeah,
last
like that's
like
like well,
yeah?
it's a short episode because it's meant to be Monday night, but it's Sunday night because everything's different, and then it's the normal length of the finale. There's no time
Gotcha.
to do both a juror removal and a challenge to final 2, which would probably be my preference. Not a removal. Do a juror add. It's fine. Whatever. Give the like just to make sure. Like it's very unlikely that this will pan out in a way. And just I feel like we need to know what the solution is, and I think that if they could do a juror add or removal if they have to, and then but still get a challenge to get it down to a final 2, that's what I think they should do. But they just like simply do not have time to do that. So yeah. If it's a tie, I think split the money is the best thing I have. Co-winners. That's it.
No, yeah. Case of a tie.
I would really hate fire. Like I don't like fire
No,
anyway.
I would like to see. Yeah, I would like to see. Yeah, like an addition of like a like you said before, the addition of like a vote or a mechanism that's designed or that is potentially given to the winner of the final challenge to either implement in some kind of way, but they don't have full vision over how it will actually play out. You double down on someone's actual vote for the winner or something like that. So yeah. And look, I'm sure production have spent a lot of time planning that and thinking about how it's all going to come together and stuff like that. And it may even, they may even like back themselves in based on like who's there and what they think the sentiment is. Like they might be able to make that call on the fly and have mechanisms or levers that they can pull based on how that is all progressing towards the end.
I think you just use scissors, paper, rock. Best of 3. It's the highest stakes game of scissors, paper, rock ever. ever. Well, maybe not ever. I'd love to know what the highest stakes game is. Oh, scissors, paper, rock. Genuinely, I prefer that to fire.
Wow.
I prefer, like, if I'm going to have a challenge to decide
the
winner, I don't want it to be fired. Rather, it was like touchy subject, so you have to like answer questions about the jury or something. Even then, that's terrible. I don't want to. No challenge. Not even the best of the challenges. Please. We don't have. There's no solution to this. We've racked our brains. We have the best minds on
you know
this.
what?
You and me.
I'm
We've
sure
got
there
nothing.
will be a solution, and we'll find out next week.
There is no solution. I literally can't think of anything.
Yeah, there will be, surely.
Well, they've had this before, and they were tempted to make it a 4-4 just for the fun of it. It was like a 5-3.
What happened? Which season?
It was in Micronesia, and it was a 5-3. But I know that jurors have since said that they like really wanted to push it for the fun. Now, if AJ and Miles are on the jury, they're doing this, right? Like if they're jurors, they're doing it. I don't know if others will, but I can imagine them at Jury Village just being like, "Let's do it. Let's see what happens," because then we'll know, and that'll be important.
That's good.
That would be historic. Historically,
yeah.
Not great.
I mean, imagine a player who was sitting there. Yeah, take the split. You've come that far. You to almost win. Yeah, you wouldn't want to like get the full votes and then go home with nothing.
Yes. So what have you thought of Miles this week? Again, he could be on a bottom position here. I don't think he should be, but he's definitely coming back, I think, as the jungle rat, having voted against his best friend who's still there. Did he make major mistakes for you this week? Like, how did he get back here on the bottom? Like, again, like this is just where he lives.
It's crazy because it's, as I said before, like it's not even any time spent in the middle. It's like at the top or at the bottom.
Often in one episode.
One of those two, which is crazy.
I have so many questions. Like the main questions I have through the deep dives are like, what happened at that Baron and Bounty episode where he seemed completely on top? They took the shot at him and then they were like, we failed. And we move on. Like that is the biggest one for me where I'm like, what happened there? But this as well, like in one episode, he went from having an idol, thinking he controlled the whole endgame, had a whole path to the end, and is now like voted against AJ, and AJ's still in the game. So that's where he's at.
But everyone's still talking to him, and he still has like some level of control. Look, I think Miles is. I think he at this point realizes that he has probably overstayed his welcome and is not surprised by where he is or what is happening. And I think, as we've seen with his dedication to go to Rocks, that he is not afraid to just let it rip.
Oh my god, do you think it's Rocks? Do you think that's what the final 2 thing is? That they just picked the Rock?
No, that'd be horrible. That'd be so bad. That'd be like the urns all over again. Miles, I think it was the right thing to do. Like, I really think it would really be the jewel in the crown of Miles's chaotic season for him to knock out AJ at that point. It almost sucks that so much that Zara didn't go with him on that.
Yes,
and not that even he because they both could have used it as the move and everything. I don't think it was a misstep. I think it was just unlucky from Miles because he's probably thinking like, why did Zara?
Yeah,
like Zara's done something that's not actually in her. Like she's probably voted with emotion and not actually done something that's in her best intention based on her game, but without actually knowing what Zara is truly thinking and planning out. So right thing. How they patch it up from here, I don't know. Like I don't think that AJ and Miles need each other anymore, and I think that because they are probably.
No, I think they desperately need each other because if either one of them goes to the end with Zara and Kaylin, feels like they should be cut there. Like if they go to the final 3 challenge and then Zara wins, she should cut either of them for Kaylin and vice versa.
Yeah, but you'd rather. Yeah, you'd rather be there yourself with Zara and Kaylin than if it's either you, if it's your Miles, if that's a spot and it's either you or AJ.
Yeah, if it's that point.
You'd still rather it be you, right?
You would, of course, but I still think he should be targeting Zara or Kaylin in some order and then AJ and then he goes like that. The worst would be him, of course, but then AJ, I think they should really need each other.
But I think that given where, like, yes, for actual like getting there, but if you look at Zara, the person he's working with, like Zara, like the only one who would appeal outside of Kate would have been AJ anyway. So like it had to be AJ, and for Miles to even pitch that to Zara. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Miles AJ relationship this week, and how they either do they pull it together, do they like just turn on each other and go for it. My gut feel is that like they'll pull it back for the best intentions of the game. I have a feeling that both Miles and AJ will be at the end. I can't.
That's the 4-4. They're pulling
Pardon?
rocks for the win. It's been so foreshadowed that they get 4 votes each
I
and they pull a rock. They wanted to go to rocks. It's like they monkey pawed that so hard.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, how, like I can't like quite see it on paper, like for them.
Yeah, I don't see how that happens.
Best case scenario, but like you don't know like what's going to happen. You can't plan out those immunity, like and any final twist or whatever we're in for. So like, yeah, I'd love to see them go head to head and both pitch for their life. That'd be cool.
I just struggle to see it because it's like then one of them has to win the challenge and then take the other over Kaylin or Zara, which I think would be a really bad move. So, and I don't think they'll make it.
Yeah, like stranger things have happened, right? And and AJ, maybe he's playing down his physical ability. Maybe he's like
but he shouldn't take
punching
Miles.
out a bunch of Pilates, and no, true, like
yeah.
But if it's a three,
what if he thinks that Miles is less liked than like a Kaylin?
Miles is less like.
And then he wins the challenge.
Surely he's aware that like it's chalk and cheese though. You've got golden retriever energy and the jungle rat. Like they're just
literally cheese.
They're so different, and like I think the jury would just have to see them in completely different ways too. But how the jury reacts to those things, like I don't think Miles has he hasn't hurt anyone. Like he's been unapologetically himself, but I feel like he's been on the bottom for so long, and you can't upset anyone any more than having no power on the bottom of the tribe and playing an idol and screwing everyone else over. Like he's done his damage, but people would, I think, they still respect it because of the position that he has had to come from to get there.
Yeah, it's interesting because we did get a lot of montages of Miles annoying people. Like, what if AJ does win the challenge and thinks people really like Kaylin and people are annoyed by Miles?
It's just a huge misread.
I don't think, I would, that would be like a very unfortunate decision to make, I think. I mean, it seems clear to me. I mean, I don't know the jury. I'm just assuming things. Like, all of my decisions are based on this jury hierarchy I've created in my own mind.
And so you don't know what that sentiment of the jury is. Like,
you
look at the information we have as a viewer, you've based a lot of that has influenced a lot of our discussions tonight has been the jury villa episode. You don't get to see that when you're out there. You don't know how someone has been welcomed in. You don't know, like, everyone, when they turn up the jury, like, and when they turn up the tribal from, like, on the jury, like, they're all stern-faced and everyone's got their score settled and then, their glow-ups and everything. You don't know how that's been received. So, and you really don't know how people are feeling about you. Like, I had no idea that I had that much support when I walked in. Like, Kate would have had, like, Kate probably would have felt the same way. Just had no idea you've got like that much overwhelming support. So, yeah, it can really just, it's such a big factor that you just have to go with your gut because you don't have that information.
Yeah, nothing was like your jury villa. Was there a conga line at some point? They were like cheering your name. Wonderful, wonderful 9 minutes of my life watching it.
Yeah,
highly recommend to anyone.
It's a pretty fun night.
In your original season, like, it seemed impossible that Haley and George would ever sit next to each other. But I think that had the thing of like George then was the lesser jury threat and Flick was a huge jury threat in a way that I just don't think Kaylin is, in a way that seems like the right read of the situation. So I don't see how it happens, but for sure, if they're picking a rock on the 4-4, it would sum up the season.
They're not going to pick rocks
so many ways. That would be, and then we'd flash back when they're like, "I'll pick a rock," and it was like, "Oh, you will. Oh, you will," and that would be how we decide it. And that's a great. I mean, that's a terrible
they've actually
way
been
to decide.
foreshadowing us this whole time with the rocks this season.
Maybe they should both play a high stakes game of Deal or No Deal, and that's how it should be decided if they tie. Because I've seen that could actually be quite entertaining. Maybe that's it. I'm struggling to see where Miles like went wrong to get back on the bottom here. Like I really feel like even like so the final six, it feels like he's meant to get Kate out. That would have been good. And then even at the point where it's going to be Morgan, I don't think he should flip because again, like Morgan has her issues. Like he'd sewn up a couple of goats, but maybe like too many goats. Maybe Zara starts kind of seeing a pathway with Morgan. So like taking her out like got him to the point where he still has seemingly this pathway here with Zara, and Zara doesn't do it. So I'm like, how can I criticize him at any point of this week where he got to, I think Kate going maybe is even better. He has even more power with some goat issues of like people being tempted away from him. But then like that doesn't even happen. And Morgan goes and he still has, I think, a great path. So I'm like, I don't know where I can criticize Miles here, but he is back on the bottom. So that's, the way nature intended.
Yeah.
For the snake to eat the rat is, I think, how that went. Nature and history. So yeah, it is really interesting because I think that that final six is like they all could flip. The final five Zara could flip. We get to the point where, to be fair, minimal flipping was done. We do end up with this postgraduates final four, and I think that's how you either look at the cup half empty or half full. It's like they didn't like the status quo was maintained. People are down on that, but I'm like, but look at the opportunity. So interesting, so individual, and that's how I see my glass as half full personally.
Yeah, and with two huge players in there with Miles and AJ, like two of the biggest characters of the season, both in that alliance going head to head and then turning each other at this point, and then also needing each other potentially if it's 2 or 3 to like get through. Like it'll be fun. It's going to be. I think George said it's going to be a cracking finish and like for a photo finish. So strap in.
George was also high on Zara's move, so that's fine. I can imagine us in a different world arguing about this on Talking Tribal, and I would have just been like tackling him at a point because I was so passionate that this was not the move. But here, let's see if we have a couple more questions. Joshua Harkness says, should the season be renamed Survivor Chekhov's Women's Alliance? Now, I always say that Chekhov's Women's Alliance means that in the first, if a women's alliance is mentioned in the first third of an episode, a woman will go home in the third, in the end, in the first half of the episode, in the second half of the episode. That's just usually what I see is true. This season has been the macro version of that, where so much of the early game, especially with the Coven, then with Girls Gone Wild, was about all women alliances. And if Zara does go next, it's just poorly at Jury Villa with all the women in a row to end with an all-male final 3, which also might be why people are not necessarily enjoying the season. But like it really pointed out, like not only did the whole season started with the promise of this women's alliance, and now Jury Villa is like a painful representation of like how wrong that often does go in its like largest, most painful sense.
Yeah, crazy, hey. Oh God, I mean, if Zara, because if Zara goes next, you get 3 blokes in a final 3 or 2, like.
And a jury of all women and poorly.
It's almost like the most. Like I know not all alliances can't last, but it's good to see one like actually survive the the turmoil of it, and then for just I don't think I've ever seen like a whole alliance like without an outlier make it through to 4 before, like in the recent Australian Survivor realm. Like it's just there's been so much fluidity that it's kind of come back to that, which has kind of been good to see. So I mean, the girls versus boys was such like a big part of the early game, and like I hate that narrative, but it was so influential, wasn't it? And it with those different fragments and different versions of what that looked like with Bomb Squad and the hunks and everything like that. It's a theme that's run pretty true. So like, hey, maybe the if the Brawn can't get up, maybe the blokes can.
Well, literally, it's the guys and the brains have very much like defined so much of at least the end game. I mean, the post grads have made it to the end, but like they did something with the graduates like really early on, and then they swapped, and then they kind of came back together at 8. Like I saw much more the power structure being with Kate and Morgan, than with Zara through most of this merge. If anything, I do think that the alliance making it to the end, which we've never heard named, is, I wonder if they have a name, the Kaylin, Miles, AJ alliance. That three, like, even though Miles has lost power, like, it's just like they've always, like, even Miles was crying this week about like having to turn on the two of them. Like, that, they've always been close. They've always been protecting each other since, I think, the very beginning. That's the three that might be the final three that I think is so impressive. I feel like Zara's like been on the bottom at times and definitely been separated from them through like a lot of at least the early merge.
Because they talk about the buddy system, but then it's like when it gets to that part of the buddy system, that becomes a bit of a triangle. Like, and it's a very, like, you know, it seems to work very well, but like can probably be identified on the outside as, you know, just a couple of twos, depending on how you put it. So yeah. It's probably having a lot more of an impact on the game than what we are seeing.
Yes. And I will say, I know that people don't love that, right? And your mileage may vary on those three guys, but I will say as well, so much of the early narrative was people being, I thought, uncoolly mean to Miles, like in a way that was uncomfortable. And that alliance was born of kindness and friendship in that difficulty. And if you kind of flip your thinking around like the massacre of women that we've seen through this purge, then you can also look at it from the perspective of like Miles' struggle and Miles' journey and what he's been able to do with now two such good friends that he's crying over having to cut them, who've been able to play the game together and be born from a really, really challenging situation through like genuine relationships when no one else was giving Miles the time of day. And like, I personally see a lot of that I enjoy.
Yep. And I think that's you know, if he can, like, he obviously has the votes and he has the moves on his side to have a really compelling pitch, but I think he also has the empathetic like approach that he could, you know, the strings that he could pull there to be like, look what I have had to endure to be able to get to this point. And that's something that, say, AJ doesn't have that. His game is probably more, I mean, definitely the wrong analogy, but it's not more two-dimensional, but like that's the pillar that he is relying on. It's like the moves and the, you know, strategic management. And Kaylin is very much so in the same kind of boat, but a different pillar with like, you know, nice guy, challenge enthusiast. And then Miles is like done it all. And, you know, if you can start striking up all those different tallies, then like it's a good way to appeal to a lot of different people on the jury. And, you know, if you can find that connection, that touch point, it might just be able to edge you out over someone who has played a very, very good strategic and consistent game with a lot of moves.
Yeah. I think that Sophie Clark has always said it's story v resume, and story should win out. And Miles has a great story. Not that he doesn't have a great resume. I do think AJ has the best resume. And I do think this jury will care about resume a lot. I think it's a jury of fans more than we often have in Australian Survivor. I think their fandom is important to them. Like the way that I saw them talk about, you know, when people didn't know what rocks were, like I saw that they were like, no, this game is important to me. And I think that the Lauras, the Paulies, the Logans, it will matter to them to vote on resume. Even Kate was saying like, don't be bitter. Like it seems like they've gone in with like the criteria is game. And that's why I would put AJ as the top threat. But I think that Miles can speak to a lot of that with these big wins. And I think he has story. And I think emotionally, even if you kind of want to be cerebral about it, that's how you think you're going to vote. You know, the heart wants what it wants. And that's often kind of the journey and the story that someone can paint. And I think Miles has that the best. So I think, you know, AJ's resume, I wouldn't want to go up against that. And I think especially with this jury, I think Miles's story is the hardest part. That's why I think neither of them should choose to sit next to the other one. And I think that, you know, they'd beat obviously Zara and Kaylin, but yeah, between the two of them, that's why they're going to be drawing rocks. I think there's some really interesting stuff there that we would see between the two of them. Should we look at the confessional charts and the Chizzy charts? Now, obviously the big thing this week that Morgan left without a confessional. She left on 7, which it was historically bad before it even continued on to her boot episode. And I'm sure now is as well. That's how stats work, I guess. And like I personally like don't want to speculate on something I don't know about. I don't really know that any of us should speculate on things we don't know about. I'm not going to be doing that. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, and I think that when we look at the way that the season's being perceived, like obviously that's very distracting. You know, she doesn't get final word. She's not on the jury, and that's what kind of puts us in the situation to begin with. We don't know what's going on there. But yeah, she left on 7, so yeah, historically bad. And then Kate had 21, Kaylin on 25, Zara a lot more than Kaylin on 41. So Zara got a lot this week. as she deserved, that being in as much power as she did. She had eight confessionals when she was in charge of the 2-1-1-1 as she deserved. And then Miles is on 70 and AJ is on 88. That's way more than Miles. I wouldn't have expected that personally.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, overall, like, it's look, they've been relatively well balanced because we always hear from like both AJ and Miles like pretty evenly throughout the season. But like, I mean, I feel like we're getting a good balance between like the two of them as kind of major players. And look, at the end of the day, they're both fantastic storytellers. They really bring us into where they're at. They give great, entertaining confessionals, some great one-liners, and I think it helps create their character that people either like love to love or love to hate. So it's good to see. It's good to have two characters like that be able to go through their ups and downs and their twists and turns, but also be able to like narrate what's happening really, really well.
Yeah. You have to love, obviously I don't look at these beforehand and I don't like print them out or make them big, and I'm just like literally just like staring so hard at the tiny screen, but I'm making it work. Thank you to Carl Durrett for the charts as always. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because
the thing that jumps out to me here is with obviously with Morgan leaving under circumstances that I'm not going to speculate against either, but Kate seemed to do a lot of the heavy lifting in the Kate and Morgan relationship as they were kind of moving through the game, very much so as as their buddy system. But I would have expected Kate to be higher than that, considering if almost say some of Morgan's confessionals are kind of going through Kate, or we're hearing Morgan's story through Kate. Like I would have expected a bit more there, but it's like there's not as much as what I thought.
Completely agree. I also wanted to say, like, AJ having 88 and Miles having 70 is kind of child's play. Like, I'm pretty sure George and David had like 150 confessionals. So I don't know where the confessionals are. I guess a lot of the like early merge coven members got a lot as well. So it's actually seemingly more even, I think, that we must have had, or there are just fewer confessionals in general. But I think genuinely that might be like half of George's numbers. Yeah, in terms of Kate, I definitely agree. I think that this is where we kind of lose a bit on the Australian Survivor editing style, where we lose a lot of story. I mean, even the people now, we get that, like, the background package. Obviously, we got that for Kate in episode 11, I think. But we don't, the way people say that the US, I love Simon's looking at the charts so intently. It's very small. I'm so sorry. It's not Carl's fault. Okay. It's late in the season and the numbers are getting smaller. There's more numbers to put on the chart. But yeah, I mean, in US Survivor, people complain that they go too story heavy, too many sob stories. Not enough sob stories in Australian Survivor. Like Kate has spoken on social media. She's spoken to Jury Villa about, playing the game with OCD. And as someone with OCD, I love that in the preseason. I would have loved to see more of it. She made the final 5. She was a big part of the strategy of the merge. Yeah. We don't get any of that. And like, even like AJ.
There's nothing there.
What do we know about AJ and Miles outside of the game, really? We know Miles, like we know that he likes like D&D and stuff, right? I assume like we kind of got that. And AJ plays poker, okay. And like, I know their personality because we've seen a lot of their personality in their big characters. Could get more about who they are as humans. Like in general, that's kind of, and for Kate, for sure, I would have loved to see more of that from a game perspective, from just like a personal perspective. We got a lot of that with like Paulie in the letters, but I kind of feel like unless it kind of has an avenue, we're not really going to hear it. And like Kate struggling with OCD on the island, I mean, I definitely have personal stakes in that myself, but like that would have really interested me to hear something about her story on that.
Yeah. And especially when like, they're like Survivor's not out there to destroy people's like their image or anything like that. But when there's a a feel good story that like as we saw from Kate posting on social media this week, just how uplifting that was and how proud she was of what she achieved out there. Like, yeah, I can't believe we didn't see any of that. But I don't know, maybe it's a difficult thing to try to like edit around or how it kind of comes across or whatever. But like. Yeah, it would have so much context because it's like Survivor's hard enough as it is, and to go through just your mind going 1,000 miles a minute on top of I can't even begin to comprehend how much of a challenge that would have been for Kate. So yeah, I would have loved to see some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Rob's always said that like it's not the Australian Survivor style, because Australian Survivor, when it tells you about who they are as people, will build you up rather than building you necessarily down. And I say that with quotes because I think my OCD is a nightmare at times, but also a superpower. And I wonder if, Kate would agree. But I think, every flaw can be a positive, if flaw, again, in quotes. But like, they're all parts of who we are, that for the good and the bad, I think. And like, I think that that's what it is. It's like when you see AJ, he's like the poker playing superstar, like Miles, just like slashy, like with all the, financial and analysts and pole dancing. And even Kate, it was like, I'm a dancer, I'm a DJ. Like, here's the resume, here's the credits. But what's like the story? And I feel like they don't kind of show that vulnerability as much, even though the vulnerability can be like the strongest part about you. But that's not the Australian Survivor editing style. I like that. I like seeing the vulnerability. I think that's how you get to know people. And we got that, getting that in Kate's Jury Villa, like, you learn more about it that way that we missed on the show, I think.
Yeah. And even for like, Kate to be in the final 5 there and just, we saw so little of her game, pre-merge. Like,
yeah,
crazy.
2 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. Okay, it's a lot of zeros. I wasn't anticipating it to be. It's a lot of. It's not like the 2 1 1 1. Although that is kind of like some people's confessional charts here. But yeah, she's gonna be the last Brawn standing. You would have thought we would have got a little bit more to also build her up as the real threat to win that she was. Like, the jury loved her. Like, if that really felt like a real battle, and then like as well when Zara makes that move, I still think I would have disagreed with it, but maybe it also feel like, to be fair, she was on the back foot. So that move's going to be what it's going to be. But if through the late merge, it felt like she could have been a contender against the AJ Miles side, I think that it would have felt like a little bit less like a steamroll. She's going to lose power at a point that's going to be evident. But even before that, it would have felt like maybe it's Kate's game to lose. And Kaylin's been the big one too, because he should be a really good winner contender right now. And he has so few confessionals. Where like, yeah, he should be able to sit next to Zara and like really have a shot at it, but it just feels like edit wise he won't. And he and Kate, I think, are my 2 biggest. Obviously, the Morgan stuff, she should have more than 7 confessionals. But in terms of like who we really should have gotten to know, I really feel like Kate and Kaylin were the 2 we missed out on. Yeah. Okay. Chili charts. Thank you, Randy Newport, as always, for the chili charts. This is close. Now, again, let me lean really close. So Miles is on 44 and AJ is on 43. Kaylin's on 33. So there are 12 points left. He could technically, no, he can't win because there's only 4 people left. So if he got 12 points in the next 2 episodes, that would put him on 45. And then say Zara gets 8 points. But then there's still, okay, AJ could get 2 1s and they could tie. That's where we're at on the quick math. Probably AJ or Miles will win the game and also the chizzy. I'm not going to be rigging the chizzy. So probably the person who wins the game will win the chizzy, but it's very, very close.
So I can rig it for you, mate.
No, we're not rigging it because I rigged it once. We can't rig every, because I'm like, I can't be rigging every season. And Peter was like, if you rig every season, what's the point of doing the chizzy? Peter says I can rig the chizzy once every 4 years, like an election or an Olympics. But not every 6 months. He categorically was like, that's not right. And I was like, fair enough, even though it would be great. And you know how we decide chizzy ties, unlike game ties?
How?
They both win. They both get a mug. Yeah, that's how we decide that. And that's what Australian Survivor should. That's what Survivor should do in this situation.
And everyone splits the prize money and everyone's happy.
Everyone gets $500,000. They both get a mug. They don't have to split the mug.
Oh, they both get $500K.
Yeah. Wow. Bankrupt Channel 10 while we're at it. Why not? I think that's the solution. So that's how we decide the chizzy here. But that's where we're at. Zara on 8. That feels unfair. I do apologize for that because I feel like that is unfair to Zara. I mean, I've disagreed with the decision, so I haven't given her late game points. I feel like she was on the bottom in the swap, so she can get points kind of there. So I feel like she probably could have got more, especially like kind of early on with maybe some of the Coven majority. But unfortunately, and then I felt like she lost power through the first. I feel bad. I feel like that's not really right. But I feel like she didn't have power in the first half of the merge, and then the second half I've disagreed. But I feel bad that she's on 8 points there, and the rest of the guys are just. I mean, it looks like the confessional.
Well, we might be able to change that for her tonight, hey?
No, we're not giving chizzy points.
Oh, we're not.
No, we're just looking at the charts. Who would you have given to? I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I had 3 for Zara.
Oh, you did. Oh, no. Oh, you had.
Well, I know, but I can still like tell where I was going to give them.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to give 3 to Zara for identifying where all the votes were going. So I thought that was it. Like, that was a really cool moment. 2 points for Miles for playing a 4th idol that was still nullified a vote. Like, that in itself was really cool. And then 1 point for AJ to be able to like manipulate and like protect his kind of shield, I guess. So yeah, one for AJ there. So that would have tied it up. Oh no,
I
because
do.
Miles didn't do. No.
Yeah, I do feel a little bad that you came in and you decided your cheesy points, which is so adorable. But then I feel less
Well,
bad because
last time we still had them up in the air. So I'm like, you know what? That's the
Aw,
least I can do.
it's so sweet. But I am also glad that I didn't give you the cheesy points because I feel like giving Zara for 3 points where I feel like she tanked her game would have made me mad. But I'm still glad that you cared enough to think about it. I mean, how many people can we say that that's true for? Like, that's so kind.
It's good.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry. I feel so bad. It's like I should add them to
Oh,
the
don't
chat,
feel
but I won't.
bad.
I do. I
No,
feel
you can.
Simon, what are your predictions? Who was going next? How does this play out? Play out the final four for me through to the win.
I don't know. Oh, I don't know what's going through AJ's head right now. Like, and I think that's like probably the biggest deciding factor. Because I don't know what this relationship is going to be like with Miles and AJ like this late in the game. Look, I hope it works out for Zara. I think that having an opportunity to have control at 5, I hope it works out for her. My gut from here is that we have a winner in AJ or Miles. And if I was to pick one, I love AJ, and I think he's played like a phenomenal game. But I just have to root for someone who has spent so much time on the bottom and has just been able to thrive. And so I will throw my my support behind Miles, and I hope that he can bring it home for anyone who has been through severe bottomness. He has certainly overcome it.
Yeah, he would be the king of that crew, surely. Because what other what other people in that club? I feel very weird saying what other major bottoms have won the game. But I feel like he'd be
Yeah.
for that. Like bringing one
Well,
home to the team.
people who have survived for a long time, like
Well, Christy.
on the bottom, like yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, she did very well. Obviously, come back and win. I mean, that was like the ultimate, overthrow, right?
Yeah. She was
I
really on the bottom.
Paulie spent so much time on the bottom.
Yeah, but he's not gonna win. Like, who are the winners to have spent Ferris spent time on the bottom. Ferris had a tough swap.
Yeah,
And then
spent a lot of time in the minority. Like
everyone in Titans v
yeah,
Rebels did because it was so fluid that you took your turn at power and then you gave it up. Everyone was Miles on Titans v Rebels.
yeah,
Everyone was up and down and there's no in between.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think
But
okay, I'm gonna predict. I think final four either fire between Zara and Miles. Miles wins fire, or Kaylin votes with AJ and Miles to vote out Zara. I think Zara out of 4. I think Miles wins the final challenge and takes Kaylin. And then I'm thinking about it. Kaylin as a losing finalist makes
so
a
you're
lot of
picking you're picking final 2.
yeah.
I feel like
I think
a lot of your talk tonight has been considering
all my
2,
analysis
factoring
is
in
on a
2.
final
Yeah,
two because it's
yeah,
at the point where it's like the final 5 becomes so much less well, I mean it's still important, but the final 6 vote then who were the 3 going through to 6 to really run it down through a final 5 and 4 vote to 3, and that would have been so important. I think they're really looking at it as a final 2. Everything we get is who will take them to the end in a final 2. It's about being in that final challenge. Yeah, and I mean maybe if they think it's a final 3, then maybe Zara's thinking, then Kate will then be in the final challenge without the final 4 and win. But at that point, the game's really lost. At that point, if they think it's a final 3, then letting Morgan go was worse than ever. So
yeah.
I think they think it's a final 2, and I think I have to again. They in
So we
their
think so. Kaylin, I think we can agree Kaylin's probably a finalist, right?
well, that's what I was
We've got
thinking.
it.
Yeah,
We've
I mean,
still
again,
got another physical challenge. I mean, he's also very good at puzzles, apparently. So
yeah.
he's well rounded. So we've got another challenge before the final big endurance challenge. As such, it's hard to imagine an end game, end final episode without Kaylin pitching.
Yeah, well, that I was thinking. Firstly, it's so hard just trying to analyze the show with it might be a final 3 or 2. I can't imagine playing it that way. I've been assuming final 2. I do think it'll be a final 2 just because the next time on really made it seem like Miles was in an immunity challenge, which would kind of otherwise if it has to be a non-elim next episode. So I guess we'll know Oh, I really hope it's not a surprise final three. I feel like that will change everything, but it will really make so much of what I've talked about this week seem so completely redundant. And then the final six.
You got to factor these things
really
in. You're like,
I mean, you do, but you have to pick a path. Like you literally, it's so hard to consider both. But if that's the case, then Miles and AJ have done very, very well to both get to this point where now one of them will definitely win. Because if it's the final two, you could get out, Miles and AJ at a 4 and a 3, and then Zara and Kaylin sit in the final two. So then the game has been kind of sewn up for them, which is kind of the point of the final three, I think, to kind of stop the game for the bigger, more vocal threats. But I think.
Okay, and what do you think the Survivor gods would like to see?
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I hate about it is, an AJ or Miles.
I'm sure they'd like to see an AJ Miles, like they'd love to see a Ferris Kirby, right? Like, and it creates for absolute nail biter. Like, it doesn't make sense for anyone out there if they're trying to win it outright. But it's fun. And when was it, like, how we've had outright majority votes for how many, like, in the last seasons? Was All Stars the last one? Oh no, George and Haley. That was a 7-2. Oh, sorry, I'm not finishing my sentences. The how many final tribal councils have we had recently in the last few seasons that have been someone's won unanimously with 1 or 2 0 vote?
I think Ferris won unanimously and Liz won unanimously. When was the last time a finalist got a vote in this game?
Well, and then Mark
won unanimously.
So it was George and Haley when it was like 7-2 or something.
No, those are all the seasons. Yeah. Well,
it's the last 3. Yeah.
I do hope that every finalist gets a vote. I hate when people it just makes me feel sad. But I mean, looking at it, if they want Miles or AJ to win, like, the producers should make it a surprise final 3. It would solve the 4-4 issue. And that's why final 3s exist, because the people that producers liked
it doesn't solve the 4-4 issue.
It does, because it would be a final 3 with a 7-person jury.
Oh, true. Okay, yeah. I'm thinking hang on a tick. You can still vote 4-4-0, but no, there's not enough people to do that.
Yeah, it could be a 3-3-1, but then the one person would vote, and then they would, so that would solve that. That's why producers have always done that, is like, let's have the bigger threats win, but then largely it means the bigger threats go out earlier, and then they had fire. But the way to do it is to make them think it's a final 2 and then a surprise final 3. Now, don't tell US production that, because that is what they'll end up doing, and that's not good. I want people to know the game that they're playing. But thinking about it, Kaylin as a losing finalist makes a lot of sense of his edit, because he's played a pretty good game. But if they showed us that, then we might be more like, he should win at the end. And obviously he's won a lot of challenges, so I'm sure a lot of the casuals, I like Kaylin too, but it would be like, he should win. So maybe they need to downplay that against the louder personality who end up winning, whether that's AJ or Miles. So I think AJ will win that challenge to take Kaylin. That's where I'm at. And AJ also based on, so I think, did I say AJ? I think Miles will win that challenge. What did I say? Miles will win that challenge.
You said AJ will take Kaylin.
My God, what is wrong with my brain? At least I caught it. I'm sorry for all the names I got wrong in this podcast. God only knows. Miles will win, take Kaylin. And then that makes sense of AJ's edit, because I think he's had more of the cocky downfall edit, and Miles has had the, like.
So are you saying, AJ, you're predicting AJ going at 4 or 3?
At 3. I think Zara, AJ. Well, we'll see. Zara, AJ, final 2, Kaylin, Miles wins. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I see it. I think it makes sense for the edit. I don't know if it's a final 2, but we'll see. We'll see. Simon, did you have more? Did you have more things prepared, like your cheesy points that you wanted to talk through on this feedback show?
No, I just had just who I think like my big notes were like, okay, we're down to final 4, who needs who there? Like AJ can win it at 3 or 2 with Kaylin and or Zara. I think it gets like really interesting with Miles there. So Zara can probably win with Kaylin or Kate. That's my take on it, depending on like jury sentiment. Now, obviously, that kind of changes things a little bit. I think Miles can win with anyone cleanly. Anyone but AJ cleanly. I think he can beam with a shot against AJ, but that'll go either way. And then Kate, I think would Kate can win with Zara or Kaylin if she was still there. And then Kaylin, he'd probably want to he would need Morgan, Zara, or Kate in best scenario. So that was kind of like my last kind of thinking around that. I think by narrowing that down, my gut says that AJ Miles, it's there for the taking, and whoever wins that final challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I was Zara, I mean, we're just going back around in circles, but like, yeah, you want Kate out of there. You also want Kaylin out of there if you want to at least be there. So like, oh, it's so hard. It's so hard to like predict these things and knowing what the challenge is going to be, and are you in with the best crack, and how are you taking out the right person based on what it's going to be. But as we've kind of said, you find yourself in this situation, you just have to like pick a path and commit to it. Because if you flip flop or whatever, like you can't do it all. We've established this in our struggles tonight. And, whether you're backing in a 3 or whether you're backing in a 2, if you're one of those magical people who have like a great scenario for both options, phenomenal. You've probably like worked really hard a lot further out to get to that point. But like, yeah, back yourself home and hope you've made the right decision and luck is on your side.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really, really hard because I think that being able to accurately assess who you should sit next to at the end is a very, very difficult skill in Survivor, and so pivotal. But then it's like, you don't even know how many people, if you don't even know how many people to sit next to, firstly, very hard to pitch to people like, we should go down to a final 3, a final 2, hard to make endgame plans with people when you don't know what you're pitching. And secondly, yeah, it means that for taking out Morgan is a game-losing move for Zara, is a game-losing move for Kaylin, probably, if they get to a 5 without 2 people they can beat. But for someone like Kaylin, if you want to take out a Morgan at 6, if you had kept Morgan in at 6 and it was a final 2, you're losing a lot of power. Can you go to Morgan at a 5 and pitch and be like, no, we should be together with Zara? You don't know, because you don't know if it's a final 3. Like, it makes it an impossible game. And I still, to this day,
and that is why we love it.
I really feel bad for Matt to this day because he won the final 2 version of that season, and people don't think about that enough. I do.
No, it's and it, like, it wasn't a flashy game, but he played the perfect final 2 game. Like, and as frustrating it was for me to, to sit back and watch him get there. Like, I mean, if you're in his position and that was the horse you backed, it's like, yeah, you do exactly the same thing. If you're shooting for $500,000 and $500,000 alone, like, yeah. So, whoa. Yep.
Yeah.
I ran into Maddie on the weekend, actually. I was down the coast.
God.
Yeah, down the Gold Coast with my family. He's expecting another baby, actually.
Oh, good for him. Like everyone on Australian Survivor.
What
does he complain about the fact that he would have won the because he was like screwed pretty badly because he would have won if it wasn't a surprise final 3.
Look, when I caught up with him, I think I had to ask. Like, we went for a
You asked him?
I think I said
on the weekend. What are the odds?
No, not just on the weekend.
Okay.
In
the past.
In the past,
Yeah.
And it wasn't like necessarily like asking like about that. I'm just like, retrospectively, how are you feeling? And he said that you can't dwell on these things. Like, you have to let them go. There's nothing you can do that can go back and change those things. It's like, yeah, you might lose a little bit of sleep over them, but like, you can't let it eat you up inside. So like, yeah, he took it really well. Like, because it was absolutely heartbreaking to see, because he was. I still don't think he was and should have been a 0 vote finalist, because he did the right things to get there for his game there, and like, it's just the nature of this game, and like, I think that the way that it turned at the last minute made it really interesting, and it because it was a 2, everyone kind of knew what that was going to look like, but being a 3 made that final pitch so interesting. And whether that was always planned, whether it was a lever that was pulled by production, like, I have no idea, but it was well executed to leave a really good end to the season. I hope that they can find the right mechanism to make this as exciting as we think it is right now, because looking down here, there are so many options. Like, we can predict it, but it can really go either way. Like, everyone is in with a shot to some extent, and I truly believe that. So yeah, I can't wait to see how it unfolds. And I mean, good luck to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, well, like Liz, people like Liz a lot, you know, and people liked when Ferris and Eileen didn't go home over Charles. And that's how they paint these things where like you care less when people are screwed. But I would dwell on it. I would make my Twitter bio like winner of Survivor Heroes versus Villains brackets if it were a final two. And this reminds me of when I interviewed Baden after he was completely screwed out of Brains V Brawn 1. And I was like, he was so blasé about it. I was like, aren't you? I was angrier than him. I was like, aren't you angry about this? He was like, it's the game. I'm like, is it? I've never seen this before. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was so mad. See, this is the kind of thing I would never get over. I'd be like, and I would be like on everything. I get shirts. I'd be like, final two winner of Heroes versus Villains. Could have gone either way. Could have been either one. And we had to pick a path. I picked two. I was wrong, but had it been a final two, I would have won. So just saying.
So here's one for you. Before I played, I had a family friend, mutual connection with Heath from season 3. You know, really tall guy.
Oh, yes.
And did I catch up with him, or just was that like had a couple of like phone calls with him before I kind of played, just to, I don't know, suss out like, you know, what's going on, and, you know, get the inside scoop on, you know, what to prepare for and stuff. And just ask him, you know, how much do you think about the game now? And he's like, oh, you know, like I think it was what 3 or 4 years on, like you still have like those, like up at night still having like those sliding door moments. Oh, what if I should have done this or could have done that? And I'm like, holy shit, like that's intense to be like, you know, still thinking about those things like so far down the track. So like, if you can be at peace with, you know, your regrets and your missteps and the horses, the incorrect horses that you backed, for everyone who, you know, isn't sitting there, you know, with that, you know, dirty old check at the end of the game, like, yeah, it's a pretty special skill in itself, because like it can really play mind games on you like down the track. So yeah, I hope everyone can just find peace in their own game, and you know, if you can't win and you can find peace and you can leave some kind of legacy, then that's about all
Yeah.
you can do.
Couldn't be me. You know, I would stew, but that's me personally, Simon. Obviously, I
I'm
stew on this
backing
game
up.
and I don't play it.
You
So
know, we'd all love to see you play, mate.
yeah, I
We
would
would
stew on
love
being
it.
first boot forever. I'd be like, what happened? And then there would be like everything, single thing about you built up over 32 years manifested in the way it was always going to go. And then I'd be like, fair enough. That's why I don't play. That's why I can't mentally handle the fact that would definitely happen. But Simon, where can people find you? Where can they follow your either, you know, Japanese adventures was what we just saw. But if you missed that, there's still fun stuff to come, I'm sure.
Look, I'm probably only really active on Instagram these days. So Simon.me89. And look, I still obviously get around, you know, Survivor massively, because I freaking love this game, and you know, particularly Australian Survivor, like it's just so much fun. But I'm now like a tradie content creator, which has been such a bizarre, like, kind of turn of events from someone who, you know, spent 10 years in marketing and, like, you know, became a tradie, then went on Survivor, got a following, and then I've managed to like pivot out and kind of, I guess, you know, help my career on the way through, like, you know, earning a bit of cash on the side through like the content creation from being a tradie. So that's what you'll find on like on my Instagram page. But what I do want to say is to everyone who has followed me along my journey, who got behind me from Survivor, thank you so much for like supporting me through this part, or just enduring, you know, my tradie stuff, because, you know, it makes a huge difference to my life there. So it's been quite an unexpected journey, but one that's been a lot of fun at the same time. So yeah, I'm around there if you if you're looking for me.
See, this is why you're the perfect mix of brain and brawn. Tradie content creator, marketing that. Perfect fusion of those two disciplines that are usually at war with each other.
Bizarre. So
Yeah.
but yeah, these are the positions I find myself in.
Amazing. Well, I have an X interview with Kate that is coming out. Now, if you finish this 2-hour podcast, it's probably already out. It's coming out Thursday, Australian time. If the interview isn't out yet and you're finishing this podcast, that's so nice. That means you rushed to this podcast and we really appreciate you. But the X interview with Kate, that's coming. And then I've got Survivor Global. I had a podcast with Harry on the weekend. I have the Stockwatch crossover with Taryn coming up for episode 7, I think it is. I don't even know where we're at anymore. Is it 7? I don't know. Yes. And then obviously the recap with Kuya, I know what's going on, will be for the next episode 23, and then we'll have the finale with Mike and maybe the other guys. We're hoping to set that up, and I'll let you know all about the scheduling for that. And then next week, the feedback show will be both Eden and Mark. And then deep dives hopefully will happen. And that's where we're currently at with all of the content at Shannon Gates, WeKnowGlobalSurvivor.com for all of that, so you don't miss any of it. Thank you for listening. Simon, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. Great to chat to you as always.
Oh, mate, thanks for having me. It's awesome to drop by.
Always a fun time. Thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our team behind the scenes, and I will see you next time. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.